And so here sitting at 25 years old during a pandemic with the entire internet for the most part against me of people that know my name, people who are just so upset with the way that I was for a very short time, and then assuming that the rest of it before that must be true because of one thing that happened, or like one period of time that was like more stressful than any of you could imagine, or I mean maybe some of you can imagine. Well, then put that into perspective. It was just the worst thing that ever happened to me my whole life. Worst thing that happened to Kate. Kate went through it with me because she knew that it was worth it. She knew that I was in there, and she was willing to essentially help me battle my demons. And those demons were people. When I was younger, I was taught about angels and demons, and so I was so focused on all these outside ideas when I was totally missing the reality of evil people in my life, and ill-willed people in my life, and people making excuses in my life. So I moved past them, and Caitlin and I made it out alive, and we're very grateful for that. And please understand that everything that happened between her and I is between her and I, and it never should have been brought to the screen. It never should have even happened. And our lives are our lives now, and we're living them that way, and we would like to share them with you as much as we can. As far as our individualism, we have felt so forced together that it's like we take a step apart from each other, and there's immediately somebody standing there judging us, telling us, how we're doing something wrong. And so we've really clung to each other. But now we're realizing is we don't have to feel judged. We don't have to be judged. We can let go and let God and not share our internal personal lives on screen. So we'll have a lot of entertainment for you and a lot of good things, and hopefully you enjoy it. Please understand that everything in the past was because we didn't have healthy boundaries with anyone else or each other, and we're learning them. And her and I are working every day to move beyond the codependency that we do share with one another. But it is getting better every day, and it's such a beautiful blossoming process. And hopefully you guys will get to experience and see the way that we interact off screen one day on screen. But first it has to start with us building a good, healthy relationship between one another. Last but not least is everyone who has made an effort in my life to help move my life forward before I ever met Kate. Thank you for being there for me. You did your best. You helped increase my life value. You helped me see who I am just a bit more every step of the way. And I want you to know that everyone who has invested in my life, that it wasn't for naught. You didn't waste your time. You didn't waste your energy, your effort, your money. I'm finally alive. And it may have cost me 25 years of life to get one breath, but even if I never get another one, I just want you to know that you played a really big role in making sure that I at least got to the first, because I felt suffocated my whole life until now. Thank you for everything. Now it's time for Caitlin and I to build our life together. And for now, everyone is going to have to watch from the outside for the sake of our headspace and our mental health and sanity. And we're going to have to do it homelessly during a pandemic on the kindness of strangers. And we finally don't want to anymore. And let me make that clear. We're finally ready to be responsible for ourselves. It has to start here, though, because of all the variables at hand. It is impossible for us to do it any other way. And you're just going to have to trust me on that. We love you guys, and you'll be seeing us very soon. What's up, everybody? Hope you like the shirt. Welcome to the party. Come on in, say hello. I figure it accentuates me a little bit. This video is marked not for kids, before anyone gets all nervous. I'm not identifying as any other sexuality than heterosexual. I am here to make a point, make a statement, because there's a lot of people who are very confused and living in a backwards world. And what I'm coming to see is there's no glass ceiling in life. There's just like people living in the upside down, you might call it. I'm using movie references to try and relate things that I don't know how to communicate. There are people like out there on the internet and in real life who do that. It's considered an illness, ironically. I'm just doing it because there are people that I couldn't communicate it to them if I wanted to, and so I'm not really going to try all that much. I'm just going to troll, because that's pretty much I'm trolling right now. Because, I'm going to make something very clear. Don't play this up. I'm going to just hear me out. Good morning. How are you, Christopher? All right. The people that have their hands around my throat right now, it's not the government. It's not the Illuminati. It's not any big thing. It is that I grew up very controlled. And I was right about it all in the beginning. So I hope you're having a beautiful. Thank you. You too. I was right. When I was in foster care, I was right about me. Even if Kate, I gotta let it out. Like, if I don't, I'm gonna swallow this down for the rest. I would rather somebody take my life or incriminate me or try to ruin I would rather run away from criminals the rest of my life than criminalize myself, shut my mouth for the things that have been done wrong to me. You're cool? All right. My foster is a controlling bitch. As it stands, I grew up in an environment that, when I did not live the way that conformed to their religion and their way of life, I was passed and tossed from sibling to sibling as they saw fit. Defamation, blah, blah, blah. Every time I think I'm finally going to keep my mouth shut, I learn better about me. I am officially throwing ownership. Get over it already. I finally am. I am finally getting over it, Chuck. I'm finally getting over it. Because this time, I'm not saying it for anybody else but me. This time, I'm not saying it just so other people can hear it. I'm saying it so that I can let it go. So that I can move on. In the past, I wanted people to hear me because I was raised in a cult family who worshipped a woman because she was smart enough to marry a man who she knew she could control. And that's their religion, that's their way of life. But you know what? There is one person in where I was raised, there was one single human being that I respect. And it is the one person who respected me when I was a little kid and I was being beat up by my cousins. And he was someone who respected me. Even after my entire family had cast me out and judged me, I went to his wedding, and he's the only person who treated me as a human being. And let me tell you something. We're going to be successful, and we're going to move on with our lives. And one day, we're going to turn around, and we're going to bless the family that screwed up my life, who helped to screw up my life worse. They say they tried to help. Well, great. Well, you messed it up. And the only way you stay in my past is if you stay in my past from now on, because I am smart enough to stand my ground. Guys, when people try to persist their control over you, it is so important that you stand up for yourself. Do not let them gaslight you. Do not let them manipulate you. Do not let them tell you who you are. You know who you are. And there's nothing they can do that will ever stop you from being yourself if you stand up for yourself. Because as it stands, I have the world on my shoulders, and I don't have the world. It is not the fault of anyone on the internet that I am where I am. It is my own fault. And you know why? Because I believed my own mother about me. And I let her exonerate herself and then let her family twist themselves against me because she knew that's exactly what would happen. And while I was willing to go and demonize my own mother, he may not be innocent, but he did his best to help raise me. Hi, Animal Lover. Welcome on. And this isn't drama. It's not dramatic. It's my life, and it's my past. And when I was a kid, I was expected to take care of my mother. I was a kid. I was coming into adulthood. I was supposed to go live my life. Every one of my siblings pressured me into feeling like a demon, feeling like an evil human being for wanting to go out and live my own life. And the only way I could do that without them, controlling me was the Marine Corps. I found whatever way that would still please them. And when I failed and I fell on my face, you better believe when I came home, they were there to let me know, that, they expected it. And then when I finally lost my mind, guess who it was on? When they contacted a local policeman and convinced me into a lie that I needed to go and get mental help. No, I just needed my mom. And I had been gaslit so hard to believe that she was a bad person at that point in my life that I chose someone who was controlling me over someone who would have just let me be myself. And by the time I figured it out and I put it together, I had already been willing to demonize my own mother and believe that she was in a cult, when really my sister's just a psychopath and a controlling freak, and she may have a mental illness, but guys, let me tell you, as it stands, she uses it to get what she wants. And she's a smart girl, she's a genius, but she's a criminal and an evil human being. My mother, I do believe that she did the best that she could, and now she's tired, and she doesn't know what to do. She just wants her retirement, because she served Jesus her whole life, and she wanted to move on, and she wanted to be able to go ahead and relax. She worked her job, she got her retirement, and she served her God. And now she feels, I know how she feels, robbed. She feels like, well, where's my due? Like, how much more do I have to give? And that's my mother. My mother is not innocent. When I was an infant, she was a negligent mother. She was negligent. All right? However I got abused, I don't know. I have a feeling every one of them had a hand in it, one way or the other. And while you guys are saying, well, just get over it and move on, I am. You have to, guys, please be patient with me and realize I have no one to hear this other than a 20-year-old girl who does not deserve to have to hear it to begin with, and would not have had to hear it if she had good parents who had been smart enough to see that I was too unhealthy to be with their daughter at the point in time that we started dating. It's not on me. And while her father stands in the background and gaslights everyone into believing that I'm the manipulator, Caitlin has made it very clear to me who he is. And I'm not him. And everyone could try to play their game against me. And I might get silenced for a minute because I wasn't smart enough to get ahead. But I'm moving on. Snarf, welcome on. And Caitlin and I might get separated. It's very possible. That doesn't mean I lose. That's the part no one gets. Flip the coin. Also acknowledge the positive. Will you help me acknowledge the positive, please? I do see that there's positive. I know it's there. I'm just working very hard not to be trapped in the past. Help me out. But you guys, one second, but you guys need to realize that she is not the positive side to my negative. That is such small-minded thinking. I am her positive when the screen is off. Because everyone else has her so gaslit and manipulated that she doesn't even know who she is. And I play the smallest role in that, not the biggest. I am not that powerful that in a year and a half I could completely destroy a human being. All right? We found each other. I had no idea how much power her dad had over her. I didn't have a clue. Now I have a clue. So I'm working. Always look forward, don't look back. I'm doing my best on that, Snarf. It's just, what is it worth to me if I can't right my wrongs and I can't set the record straight? Like, this is my name and my character that's on the line. And I value both because the name that we have is very much based on the character that we show. And my character
is very misconstrued and misunderstood. My character is solid. It is solid. I know that. True story. So, the next step is to set the record straight. And if I have to go to court over that, if I have to, all right then, drag me into your BS. Try to convince yourself you're right. We'll spend the next couple of years and all you'll do is go bankrupt, like Josh. You know, Josh was just trying to help. Yeah, he has his issues, and I'm not exonerating him. I mean, he's a scary man. He did some scary stuff, and he might still be doing some scary stuff. I actually don't know. But you know what? He didn't use religion as an excuse to do wrong by me. He looked me in the face like a man and said, I'm here to kill you. I actually respect that. He didn't step back and use the courts or use his religion or his family as an excuse as to why he's doing what he's doing. He looked me in the face like a man. He says, I don't respect your human life. You don't deserve to live. He didn't say that word for word. But the point I'm trying to make here, he looked at me in the face like a man and said his piece. He said his piece. That's why I respect him. Is because he looked me in the face. Forget man, woman. I say like a man, like a human being. You know? He looked me in the face like a human being, and he owned who he is. He deserves respect for that. Everything else, all messed up. Don't support it. He's not my friend, but he's not my enemy either. And he's been taking strides in the direction of honesty to make his life better, and I want to believe that. I want to believe that he's not just trying to, cover things up. But that's why his name, for the most part, stays out of my mouth. It's twofold. It's one, trying to move on, and it's two, realizing that nobody else can move on unless I do. And I'm trying to move on. But for the people watching, you have to understand that I'm telling the truth. In order for me to move on, I have to be able to tell my truth. I have to have my voice. And everyone said, well, we don't want to hear it. Then don't listen. Turn the camera off. Move on with your life. And quit worrying about whether I'm going to talk about you. Because as long as you stay out of my life from now on, I stay out of you. Trust me. That is my defense. It is not an offense. This screen is a tool or a weapon depending on how you use it. But guess what? The Japanese people, all right? This is ancient Japan. I grew up, I did martial arts growing up with my foster sister. And something they did was they utilized their arm tools. They utilized them as weapons. That's where we get the bow staff and the scythe and a lot of different weapons is from, that perspective is when they had to defend themselves against the government coming in and taking over, they utilized their farm tools. And that's where certain parts of martial arts came to be, at least in Shitaro. And on top of that was a lot of different perspectives they got from the animal kingdom. They utilized different moves within the animal kingdom. And the relation I'm trying to make here, guys, is this tool here. I know I don't want to go too far off. This tool here, it's like a hammer. You can hammer a nail or you can hit someone in the head with it. Preferably the first one. But when other people are breaking into your shop and stealing your tools, they're stealing your nails, and then they literally stab it into themselves, and they turn around and they go to the cops and they say, look, he stabbed me with this. That's insane. And people have been doing that. It is called passive-aggressive narcissism. People have been doing that with me for years. Moonbeam, I appreciate the laughter. I appreciate that you guys are making light of it. This is good because I'm getting it out. And at the same time, you guys are enjoying yourself. Good. Don't take me seriously. Sometimes it's better that way. Because this is finally for me. I was not talking for me in the past, guys. The things I was telling you, it wasn't about me. I wanted someone to hear me. But for the sake of building the platform, I'm finally being selfish in a good way. I am finally just letting my voice be heard and not caring whether or not someone else hears me. There are people who are going to hear me and who are going to know I'm telling the truth, right? I'm not fighting for the liars to believe me. Liars are going to lie. That's what they do. That's just what they do. But when Katie and I sat together today, we were talking. Katie and I because male to female, we've been so brainwashed to believe that because we're different physical genders, that we're so different on the inside too, and our situations are different, right? A dualism, as above, so below. All these different things that you guys have heard, throughout your conspiracy theories and different things that you've probably read on the internet. Well, here's the truth, guys. Katie and I aren't all that different. We just look down and our bodies are different, and our chemicals work differently, and the way that our organs operate definitely make us different. But for the most part, we're very similar. It came down to the comparison of, I grew up in a Saturnalic, what would be called like Saturnalia. If you don't know what Saturnalia is, it's an ancient practice of role reversal, where men would behave as women would behave as men. The servants would become the masters, the masters would serve the servants, and it was a social practice. Interesting. It is interesting. Here's how it applies to today. And this is I'm trying to apply today. It's not about a conspiracy theory. It's not about any big plan or whatever. I'm just trying to help you guys relate to what I experienced in my real life. Is my mother was acting like my father, and Caitlin's father was acting like her mother, because my foster mother experienced stuff growing up that was very unhealthy, and it wasn't fair to her. And so when she went on to live her life, she was not equipped. She was negligent. She was not equipped with the knowledge that we have today, and that is not her fault. It's not her fault. It doesn't mean it didn't happen. It still happened. Whether or not she was aware of what she did to me when my pop died, I can't prove it. I can't prove it. But I'm telling you, it happened. And it was quite obvious to me at that age. And I had the equipment, I had the tools to know it, even if I couldn't prove it to people who had never seen a hammer before. People aren't stupid. They just choose not to embrace the future because they're afraid of what it holds. Because they open a book and it says that the world's almost over. It also says in that book that you never know the time or the day, right? Never know the hour. So why are we living as if it's right here? Why don't we live as if we don't know anyway? You might as well live as if it's not coming, but in a way that's prepared for if it is. I'm just an honest man. And I made a lot of mistakes, but most of those mistakes were based on the ways that I was taught to live, and because I couldn't let go of them, I ended up making a whole lot of mistakes that I'm probably going to have to pay for. So let everybody else run away from the mistakes. That's just fine. That's how it is. That's just how it's going to go. That's just how it's going to go. Here's some interesting points. Thank you, Starf. That's just how it's going to go. But my point is, to diffuse the dualism between Kate and I, is that I thought we were so different. I thought we were opposites. That my family had just thrown me away, and that Caitlin's family controlled her. Right about the second part. They controlled her. They still have partial control over the way she thinks. I'm not taking control. All right? We need to establish that right now. I'm not Christian. We're not having 2.4 kids. We're not the average Americans. All right? We're New Age Americans. Because our country is a bit of a tiff, and things are going to shift. We see that shift, we're moving towards it instead of fighting it, being afraid, whatever. We're willing to take it on the chin for everyone who is afraid of the future. Well, let me tell you, to those of you who are Gen X, there's nothing to be afraid of. If you're reading stuff online that's making you afraid, let me tell you, that stuff is engineered to make you afraid, because then they make more money on you. The more you are afraid, the more money they make. Their goal is not to do that to you. All right? Google's phrase, all right, their original catchphrase, don't be evil. That's just it's a trolling statement. It's not some big, you don't have to make some big conspiracy out of it. It's very simple. Very, very simple. It is, this is a tool. Use it as you may. Yes, people are dying, and it is the responsibility of the people who have the tool in their hand to do something with it. This is not a collective thing. Social media is collective in so much as the communities that are built, but in your individual life, to look at the screen and say that it's someone else's fault is insanity. The powers that be need to do their job. We agree on that. But part of them doing their job is us doing our job. How can they set a precedence, and then behind closed doors, we break every one of those precedences, and then when things don't work out, we look at them and say it's their fault? That much I could weigh in money. Yeah. But people need to see it's about so much more than just money. Money is the bottom of the totem pole. There's people's lives are being controlled. You guys see that as well as I do. It's not that the money, it's about the money. Like, controlling people was happening way before money. Religion. Okay? There was a time when you really couldn't tithe money. You gave sacrifices. You gave the animals in your garden. You gave your own livelihood. History repeats itself, as they say. It doesn't. History doesn't repeat itself. History is history. The present day learns from history, takes the pieces that work best. They use it in the present to help build the future. That's just common sense. So when you guys hear me shift from talking about small-time family drama all the way up to these big philosophical ideas, it is because the human brain operates on a lot of different levels. And you just have to be able to shift and mold and, move back and forth between things if you're going to build something. And that's hard. But all I'm trying to do here is help our past generation not be afraid of the future generation. Because the kids and the adults are fighting, and us millennials are stuck in the middle. Well, you're not a millennial, but I'm stuck in the middle. I'm trying to build a bridge, but I ain't Jesus here. All right? Like, it exists. Like, the future is coming. There's nothing that you can do to stop it. And you don't need to be afraid of it because the Mayan calendar ended too, okay? And what, did anything change? Just because it's a bigger thing doesn't make it any more legitimate. That's just called popularity bias. That's my standpoint as a non-Christian. It scares me to say that because, I was raised as a Christian, so I don't want to go to hell. I'm afraid. You better believe it. I am terrified, guys. I am absolutely terrified as I sit here that as we see a war beginning to wage in the Middle East, mixed with the pandemic, all of it, social distancing, people being put in boxes, and we have to focus on the phone, right? How do we know what's coming? I'm trying to look beyond that, and I'm trying to help people see that my best guess, and it's a guess because I'm on the bottom of the totem pole right now. They're just trying to get people to chill out so that as things are happening, they're not thinking it's the end of the world. Because there's a lot of people with how things are happening that they're going to think it's the end of the world. The end of the world has been coming for all this time. Well, let's just chill because it has a lot more to do with oil and control and money. It has to do with a lot of different things. But to believe that it's the end of the world, it says in that book, is you don't know the day or the hour. So just chill. That's coming from me. That's coming from me. Chill. Because we don't know. And I put my own life at risk to Christians, in which Christians are on the list of terroristic organizations to the U.S. military on some level. I put my own life at risk by saying these things. But it's not the government that I have to be afraid of. It's not the law that I have to be afraid of. It is the average person who wants to act like a vigilante and then call it justice. We have a system of an order in place for a reason, guys. For a reason. And so I'm finally taking responsibility for my own life, and I'm telling all of you that you are not responsible for me. And when you try to take responsibility for me or for Kate or tell me I'm supposed to take responsibility, we don't trust your agendas. We don't trust you. You're not helping trust. If you really, you say you want to help Kate so much, shut your mouth and let her live her life. And stop saying that I'm living it for her, because I ain't. Neither one of us knew what we were getting into when we got into a relationship. We didn't have a clue. You might say we were stupid kids. But once again, to get back to the main point that I keep missing, I realized that my mother controlled me as much as Caitlin's father controlled her, controlled with fear and manipulation and tactics to keep in line with what the family viewpoint is. And it is just to satisfy an agenda that was burned into them. My poor mother had an agenda burned into her. She is innocent from those perspectives. She is. So I'm not demonizing her. I love her. I'm not demonizing her. And this is the last time you guys are going to hear about it, God willing, as long as everyone just leaves me alone and I can move on with my life. But let me ask you, how on earth am I supposed to move on with my life when all these people can't let it go? They tell, well, we'll let it go when you let it go. It's my life. I'm the last person that's going to be able to let it go. It's my life. I am the last person that's ever going to be able to let it go. But I'm going to have to be the first person to let it go. Because everyone else just wants to make excuses for themselves as to why they can't. All right, then. You need your excuses. I'll take the truth. Move on. We'll move on with our life. I'll pay my dues. And then when we make it out by the skin of our teeth, like I always do, you're going to sit there confused and angry. The run is up. It's my life, you know? Thank you, Kate. It's just, guys, I want you to know that this anger and frustration that's coming out of me has a lot more to do with that I love you than it has to do with wanting retribution or blah, blah, blah. Like, I actually care about you, and just because I'm not saying it in a way that you like, you're telling me it's not true. Maybe you should realize that I'm just negligent and no one ever taught me how to do it. No one ever taught me how to deal with thousands and thousands of people manipulating my life and totally brainwashing me and destroying my train of thought. You know? I'm finally getting back on track. Finally. Leave me alone. Because I'm the only one that actually wants to be alone at this point. Everyone says they want to be left alone. No, they don't. You use that phrase, so it's just as like water. You know, a lot of people use the phrases, I love you, and leave me alone, like water. And no, it's not Periscope. Don't blame something else. Like, it's your life, and what you do with your life is your choice, and it cannot be blamed on anyone else. Not the media, not anything. You got such a problem, shut the phone off. I did. When I'm not feeling good enough to be on screen, I'm not on screen. I didn't used to do that. I used to make an excuse. And I would shout to the heavens. Not anymore. I need to say my piece for my sake. And because I can't, because my aggressors will never own what they've done to me. Because they believe that they just helped me and they're, so great and awesome. I'm coming to realize that everybody after them did less and less. They did the most damage. And they're not criminals, they're not bad people, they were negligent. Everybody involved in my upbringing was negligent. And that's the only thing they're really guilty of, is negligence. And of course, there's things here and there that, they did wrong and they know they did wrong. But, that's average stuff. It's just, that's what average people do. We make mistakes, and mistakes are permissible, and they don't have to be judged or even exonerated. It's just, they're mistakes. And the reason that, and this is directly to the people that I love, that I want you to hear me. The only reason I ever demonized you over this stuff and started going off the deep end, it started with a lack of ownership from others. And then I pretty much copied that behavior into my adulthood of other people who did not take responsibility for the wrongs they did in my life. So what did I do? Well, I hurt others, so what? It's not my fault. It's not my responsibility. I wasn't raised well. That's quite obvious. And you don't get to say that it's my bloodline. You don't get to say that, I'm just tainted. It's clear that you didn't do all that well. And you don't get to use your own bloodline to say, well, look, they came out good, he didn't. No, y'all just know how to put on a show because we all have family drama. And I stepped away from the toxicity because I'm a smart man. God gives us our doing life, and we don't have to wait until we're dead. Because when we break, we run from God, and we feel trapped in our own house. Maybe it's because we trapped someone else, and God works in some rather obvious ways, and we get our due before we die. We don't have to wait for hell. Because when we treat someone else's life like it's not a life, we end up in hell. In our own life, we don't have to wait to die. So for me, my life became hell because I didn't want to let it go. I just couldn't let it go. Part of me letting it go is saying it out loud. Traumas. Yeah. And that long line of abuse, it doesn't start with me. It doesn't start with my family. It doesn't start with Caitlin's family. It doesn't start with my foster family. It doesn't start with my surrogate family. It started a long time ago. Who knows when? You know? Who knows when? And the only way we're all going to get through it is by owning what pieces we can, trying to be responsible with the pieces that do belong to us, and making sure we don't take responsibility for the pieces that don't. Because I'm pretty sure anybody in here right now that is angry with me probably didn't have the best parents. And either they're demonizing their parents a bit too much because they don't want to take responsibility for themselves, or on the other half, they're exonerating their parents because they're so controlled by them they can't see their parents' mistakes. Caitlin and I can relate to both of those perspectives. We get it. And we care about you, and unlike your children or your grandchildren, or unlike the younger generation, we're not leaving you behind. But we're also not going to live the way that you want us to. It's just not going to happen. And you can criminalize me, and you can exonerate Kate, and you can try to separate us as human beings. I'm a happy bunny, says Snark. That's right. Just keep hopping along. Just keep hopping along. Because just like the Japanese, you know, they had their weapons, you might say, is as a human being, sometimes we have to embody different aspects of an animal, of another species, in order to survive. And this whole time, I've been hopping for everybody else. And I finally realized, oh my gosh, I'm a human being. Why am I taking pride in only one set of my abilities? I'm a human being. I'm not just a rabbit or whatever. Like, that's crazy talk, right? But that's how far I was willing to take it, just because I couldn't admit to myself that I had been abused. And I let everyone else destroy my brain to tell me it never happened. I'm not free of mistakes. And if you guys are open to it, if we're all willing to take a breath, I would actually love for the opportunity to seal my own coffin. And then I'll hold my breath and ring the bell and someone will pick me up. Who wants that? Anybody open to having a conversation about what I actually did wrong? Because I'm not going to take it too far this time. I'm not going to confess to BS that never happened, but I'm also not going to run away from my own mistakes out of embarrassment, because that's why I ran away. Embarrassment. No other reason. I'd like to have the conversation because it's my life, it's my show, and it's time that things get better. And I want your help with that. And the only thing you have to do is throw your accusations at me in a polite enough way that you deserve my attention and respect. Because if you don't respect me, I will not acknowledge your existence. That is my human right. Because you deserve respect and so do I. So let's go. What do you got? If anybody actually has questions and not just, false accusations. All right. That's a good one right there. Carrie said, and this goes to all of you guys, because it's going to take some time to work through. I'm going to help you to understand how this stuff happened. There's a big one that Carrie has there. It says, using we allowed him to not take responsibility. Okay, here's an explanation. In media and in marketing, as I was raised and as I learned as a salesman growing up, I was taught to use the word we as a relational conversation tactic to build rapport with the customer. I use that in real life to build rapport in relationships. There is a disconnect there. I was raised in a religion that is also a business. I was raised in a government that is also a business. I was the one with the disconnect because I had no examples of how to properly use the word we. I was either a politician or a religious leader in my job, and that is sick and weird. I did not intentionally use the word we to harm anyone. I used it as a positive marketing tactic to bring people together on our platform. That was my only goal, was to build a community in a positive sense. I never meant to hurt any of you. And I am sorry for that. And I mean it. Next. That's why I do my best not to use it anymore. I don't even use it between Kate and I. I try to use Kate instead of us, because I realize neither one of us, neither Kate nor I really has our identity right now. We're pretty lost. But we're going to find ourselves. Anybody trying to step in and help us, you're not going to help us. You're going to make it a hell of a lot harder. So you got to see that and step back. Because it's for us to sort through. It's for her and I to sort through. And we are trying very hard every day to do it. All right. Exactly, it's a tactic I used. John, a tactic that I used. And we don't all have the same experiences. I can say all of us. It's so difficult because I'm talking to a whole lot of people. So I'm trying to figure out, and this has been a problem since day one, and I've said it to you guys, how to talk to the individual while talking to the group. What do politicians and religious leaders do? Call on them one at a time. I'm not starting a cult. I'm running a show. But I also want people to be involved without starting a cult, without doing anything crazy. I'm not trying to do that. So how do we re-engineer this in a way, reverse engineer it, right? Invert. How do we flip this around and make it something where everyone's involved, but at the same time, it doesn't create something unhealthy? We want to create something healthy here. As healthy as it can be, because this isn't reality. I'm finally aware of that. But it does affect reality because the things we see on screen do make it to our brain, right? So let's be responsible with it. How do we do that? Let's figure it out together. You don't speak for Kate. I agree. Yes, I know that. I know that. You talk about you only don't project your feelings on the room. John, it's very difficult when there's a whole lot of people that are throwing accusations and their feelings at me, because I've been conditioned in society and in my family to believe that I am responsible for someone else's human life. Because my own parents didn't take responsibility for mine, and then a family who should have never had to take responsibility for my life had to. And now they're putting up with my crap. I want them to be able to be done with me. That does start with me being able to move on. If they're patient enough to just simply allow me, like if they're willing to go through the pain of watching me get through my pain. But once again, my life is in someone else's hands, as it always is. And more than likely, I don't know if I got family watching this or not. I hope I do. Because if I don't, all they're going to get is a nice little clip sent to them of the worst part of the show. They're going to react and not watch the whole thing. And then it's going to get worse and worse, because that's what it always was. Because, my family always said, they're like, we'll just get off of it. Or, no, we don't watch. We don't have time for that. Well, if you don't have time to see the truth, why are you settling for a lie? Why are you settling for a synopsis from someone you don't even know and accepting it as truth? It's just laziness. If I'm not your kid, okay, that's fine. Watch the whole thing if something's said about you. Decide for yourself what you like and don't like, and come to me about it, because that's what regular human beings do. If you're that scared that you have to send a police officer, if you're that weak that you have to send someone else to do your own bidding, knock on my door and try to have a conversation with me. That's what I do. And people just call me a stalker. No, it is called, if someone has a problem with me, I'm willing to either let them come to my door, or I will go to theirs. Here's what I have finally learned. I no longer go to someone else's doorstep over a problem we have, because I'm realizing if they don't bring it to my doorstep, they're just trying to control the situation. It's good to talk, yeah. If I go to them in real life, and I'm not getting answers, but they're willing to say those, this isn't on my family, because they don't do that. The Caitlin's family did. If we go to their doorstep and it's deny, it's, take your guess, because I don't want to assume. It's seeking control. if they want to sit back and, send me food and clothing, and this isn't Kate's family, it's currently mine, try and use money and, minimal clothing or whatnot to try and convince me of who they are, well, I'm not convinced. Because when I was supposed to be at my family's house, well, I was left in the rain with a dead phone. So, with Kate, by my family. They have their reasoning. But for the first time in my whole life, the cops sided with me and they weren't mad at me. I'm not kidding. I have never had that happen. Finally. It felt good to have someone see how things really were in my childhood. And it might be like, oh man, this guy's got can you just move on? Yeah, I finally can. And it's not because the cops heard me. It's not because they sided with me or they saw what was going on. It's just because I can finally get old. You know what I mean? It's convenient because that's how God works, at least I'd like to believe. Because they ended up having to pay for my expenses in the way that they had judged me for being paid in the past. Because that when you judge, you get judged. And I've been judging my own family and everybody else for so long. Well, guess what? That explains why I've been judged. That explains why I have gotten all this crap. Because I just couldn't let it go. And I'm still going to get some crap, guys. I'm still going to get some extra crap. But you know what? It's finally over, or at least close to it, But when it says in the Bible, right? It says, what does it say? Why am I referencing the Bible, guys? Because I was raised on it, and I know that there's a lot of Christians in the audience. Okay, I'm trying to speak to my audience. I am not a Christian, but you guys are Christians, a lot of you. So I have the demographics in my analytics. All right, a lot of you are you go to church. Or at least you're Christian, or you were raised Christian, you think like a Christian. So I'm trying to speak your language. It's not my language, trust me. I'm not a Christian. But I'm trying to relate to you because I care. There's that gap because I care. And if it's insulting you that I'm not a Christian and I'm talking like one, well, I'm sorry. The only thing I'm trying to do is relate to you. That's it. I'm trying to relate it. Because I don't know how to relate real life to people who, don't know all that much about life beyond the life that they live. It's a gap that I don't know how to bridge yet, but through pain, tenacity, and a whole lot of experience, maybe some of us will grow in wisdom. Because wisdom doesn't cost money, it costs blood, in real life. If you want to know stuff about life, then you have to be willing to step beyond your doorstep and experience a whole lot of pain. I've grown in a whole lot of ways, but it has cost me a lot of pain. A lot. It hurts, but it is so worth it. Because as I see beyond the fold where everyone else is living, now we get to have a better life. And even if that life takes a little bit longer because, our parents are pissed that we didn't respect them when they disrespect us constantly, so be it. You don't demand respect and then not provide it in return. How do I say this? There is, an overarching definition of respect, how to respect your elders. It goes beyond just your small town agendas or, within your own family. And for me, I've learned as a human being that I will not provide respect in return to people who disrespect me. It's just self-respect. And it's also reproofing. When someone craps on you, you don't say thank you unless you have a fetish. If you got that fetish, there's nothing, that's your prerogative. I don't have that particular fetish, so I don't prefer, having that done. But everybody has their thing. All right, next question. If anyone has questions or accusations. I'm open to accusations now. I have changed, guys. I can imagine it's very difficult to believe that. I'm not trying to run away again. I'm right here. All right, encapsulate me, captivate me, put me away. All right, I accept my fate. Watch what happens when I come out on the other side. Who is buying your food this week? That, with all due respect, Jen, is absolutely nobody's business. And I was so stupid for believing that I owed anybody answers about the way I lived my life because I was brainwashed by my mother to tell her everything. Because I didn't have anybody else to go to, and she made sure that I didn't. Because she made me so afraid of everybody in childhood. And whether it was done on purpose or on accident, it happened. I love her a lot, but it happened. And she's the only one in my whole family willing to admit that it could have happened and willing to endure it. And all my brothers and sisters are completely ignoring her because they just can't believe that it could have happened. Well, guess what? There's things you guys don't know. I'm not talking to you guys, I'm talking to my family. Like, there's actually things you don't know. Imagine that. I was right as a kid. Y'all called me crazy. Everyone's doing this, Jimmy. Everyone thinks that. All right. In small towns, or even in Hazleton, Pennsylvania, your sphere of influence is a couple hundred people, if that. As it stands, I'm aware of thousands and thousands of people. I have been dealing with thousands and thousands of new people for years. My sphere of influence is much larger. It's much larger. I ascertain a lot more information, and I understand people a hell of a lot more than you do. Just because I don't do well with them, it's because of my own negligence, my hurt feelings. Like, it's because of what I've been through that I'm poor at what I do, not because I'm a bad person or that I'm stupid. People think it's stupid that I'm putting my life on the line like this. They don't realize how poor of a state society is in. They don't realize that if I endure this intentionally, that I will come out on the other side a bigger, better person who's healed from his issues without needing the pills, without needing the 9 to 5. And that's worth it for me. And there is no other option, because in life, guys, when you find your passion, if you're willing to step away from that passion for whatever cost it might be, you're never going to live the life you want to live, and you're going to spend the rest of your life saying that someone else is doing it wrong. Everybody's doing it right, in my opinion, to the best of their ability, me included. Haven't been talking to Josh. Once again, nobody's business. You understand people more than us. No, I'm saying, I'm not, this is my point. You're gaslighting me. I learned the word gaslight from TikTok. I wish TikTok happened for me before Periscope, because I would have been so prepared. I've been so prepared. Yeah, I'm learning what is your business and what's not. That is none of your business, whether or not I'm talking to Josh. None of your business. And I say that with respect. It is respectful for me to stand my ground as a human being about my personal privacy rights. Are you still striking Kate? No. No. You're not going to believe that either way. Okay. Not crazy. Also gaslighting, not appropriate, not welcome. Okay, Catherine, the way that I said it, if you are misunderstanding, I apologize. And I also apologize if I'm miscommunicating. What is the misunderstanding here? Maybe the way that I said it. Do you see how much I'm willing to work with you guys? And I appreciate you willing to work with me this much. You're still talking to me. After 5 years of this crap, you're still trying. All right then. Good. All right, Catherine, at that point, you're just running in circles. I'm not up for that. But doing the social media therapy for 5 years and you still are in the same position mentally and financially. Totally untrue, Scary Carrie.
You're in a different place than you were even a year ago.
Katie says, I'm in a different place than I was even a year ago.
I don't know where you were 5 years ago. All I know is where I've seen you for the past year.
I love you. Here's what I will say. I have been getting better day over day for the past 5 years, and the only time that I ever believed different, Eddie, welcome on. The only time I ever believed different was when I believed someone else about me. I was not ill. I was manipulated. I was not ill. I wanted a mom. I was not ill. There's a lot of people who knew that I just wanted family, and they knew that if they could convince me into their religion, then they're the heroes. And everybody who sits and watches their TV or wants to save their town, it's a God complex. As they say they love their God, they're trying to play God. I'm not playing God here for anybody but myself. That doesn't make me the devil. It just makes me a normal person, like trying to save myself, from everybody else who's trying to tell me how I have to live. No, Harry, I am no longer a Christian. What happened? Pretty much as a whole, the second that I renounced Jesus, I'm literally being treated like the Antichrist, which is complete insanity. So, not exactly in favor of Christianity at the moment. If people want me to speak well on the religion, then you will have to convince me otherwise. You're not going to force me or attack me and call it love and then brainwash me into agreeing with you. You'll have to actually convince me with love that you're right and I'm wrong. That's how love works. That's how truth works. Because one thing I always said growing up, even as a Christian, I said, no matter what you do, no matter what I do, I'm not going to fight with somebody else about what their religion is, because at the end of it all, we find out who's right. At least based on how the religion is said. So for me, I try to stand my ground and just say, okay, well, prove yourself right instead of don't prove me wrong, try to prove yourself right. And this might sound like me trying to prove somebody else wrong. It's not. I'm saying that I'm right, and I'm right about me. I'm not saying right about religion. I'm right about me. And you're not going to convince me I'm wrong about me, but what you can do is help me figure out where I should stand. Because everyone wants me to be this piece of meat that becomes, part of their machine. So give me help here. Oh boy. Oh boy. So if you guys are going to convince me of anything, it starts with us getting the truth out about me. I will not side with anyone at all until I'm heard. That's where I stand. When is everybody? What does that mean? This is very difficult for me, guys, but I finally am secure in myself, and I know that no matter what other people see on my face, I know who I am. And I stand by that. And I'll stand by that no matter what happens to me from here on in. Are you still a secular evangelist? Moonbeam, here's what I'm going to tell you. That narcissistic perfectionist attitude that you're projecting on me right now is extremely toxic and ill-seated behavior. And I'm sorry for whatever you're experiencing in your life. Why am I sorry for what you're experiencing? Whatever you are experiencing in your life, it is on you. And coming at me because of whatever you're going through does not exactly speak well for who you are. That's where I'm going to leave it. That's not an attack, that's a defense. Quite obviously a defense. It's been a good, healthy discussion today. Thank you, Snarf. It's what I'm finally starting to see, Snarf, is that you are right as far as just letting it go. It's just so hard for me to believe this thing that you've been telling me for so long, that they do not care about the truth. That's like kind of mind-blowing to me, that they genuinely don't care. They don't. I mean, they just literally don't, and I just have to leave them behind. Most of you. You could stop watching my show, go somewhere else, because I care a lot about you, but what I'm finally seeing is I just have a 70% audience, 90% audience actually, of narcissistic abusers who want to control my life. Oops. I'm going to explain one more thing to you guys. This is mostly so the person that needs to hear it hears it, from my real life that I care a lot about, that I need space from. You have to hear this if you're watching. Sure as God, hope you are. I mean, it's a pandemic. What else are you doing right now? Katie, don't laugh at that. It's not funny. I love you. I'm just saying, it's not funny. None of this is funny. You're laughing because you love me and the way I said it, and because you're looking for positivity in the situation. Like, I get it. I get why you laughed. But it is still the right thing to do for me to cut it. Say, like, whoa, because her parents didn't raise her, now I literally have to help raise my own girlfriend. That's insanity. She's 20 years old. A man is not an adult till 25 years old. That he's not fully developed. And yet, it's all my fault. insanity, gaslighting, manipulation, lack of accountability. It's lack of accountability on all other parties. And what I'm learning is, I think all other parties involved have their own guilt about things in their own life, and they're just trying to silence me so that no one will look into their crimes. Well, let me tell you something. The best for people to look into your crimes is if you keep coming after me. I'm the one that gets all the attention, and they'll look into you guys in order to, try and find more stuff about me. When they find stuff about you, they will simply put it on screen and let the cops do as they may, because they're trying to make a paycheck on someone else's life. And because you didn't believe me that they were doing that, now they're bothering you. That's not on me. It's not. I defended myself on screen because you wouldn't believe me in real life. So, open a defamation suit. Sue me. Do whatever you want. All you're doing is spending money that you don't have, because things are not going to get back to normal in society. I've been trying to say that to the people that I love for over 5 years, letting them know that something's coming, letting them know that things are changing, things are going to change. And you can say it's coincidence and convenience, but it's not coincidence or convenience. I'm a really smart guy, and I couldn't tell you that all this was coming on. Of course not. But I did see a big shift in society due to technology, and I was smart enough to see that there was more coming, but I spent too much time trying to explain to people who didn't want to listen, and so now we're trapped here too. Maybe we make it out by the skin of our teeth. We don't know yet. We don't know yet. But if anything's going to happen, if I do get incriminated or crazy stuff like that, right? You know what's actually going to happen? I'll end up in a jail cell, and then everything, America will shut down. and the doors will open, and I'll walk out. I don't think you guys get it. Honest people, good people, they survive. That's how it works. Everyone always told me that. Growing up, that's what everybody told me. It says, stay honest, be a good person, and everything will work out. So, okay. Even my own mom, my biological mom, after meeting her, that's what she said. She says, stay honest, be good, everything will work out. I am. That's why I'm still okay. That's why I will be okay. If it's hard to believe I'm telling the truth, well, that's on you, not on me. Just grow some more patience, because I'm way more patient than you are. God's honest truth, I'm extremely patient with people who completely misunderstand the situation, do not have the facts, are not paying attention to them, try and read the situation however they please to fit their narrative, and then crucify me like I'm whatever the heck. That portion of my life is officially over. We're moving forward. So, just leave me alone and let me sort my own life out, and I'll pay you. Okay? You'll get your money. Don't worry. You're never gonna be right. That day doesn't come. No matter how hard you try to prove it, the only thing that'll happen is the same thing that happened to all the other haters, is that you'll bury yourself, because you can't bury me. And if you try, I don't know, the gun will misfire and fire back on you. I'm not insane. I don't think I'm invincible. The likelihood is 99% that something will happen to me if I don't learn to be less cocky and more responsible. But it's not a guarantee. And I live my life on that 1%. And so, although it may seem like I'm insane, I've just lived my life in such a unique fashion, and I've had a lot of experiences that could have killed me, and it didn't. I've had a lot of experiences that could have suffocated me and left me to die, and it didn't. And I'm starting to see the reason that is because I remain equipped in my own life. I stay one step ahead of the people who continually try to abuse me and manipulate and control me. And I stay on my toes, and I remain honest. And one thing that is very difficult to believe, that I do not believe yet, and I really hope you guys don't convince me, is the idea that deception is necessary. Because I have one person who's very wise, who told me, says, wise owls don't fly until they die. Well, a wise owl once told me, and his name was Michael Conger. He was my pup. Stay honest. Don't lie on your taxes. Don't lie to your friends. Don't lie to your family. Stay honest. He's the one that told me that. It was my father. The only dad I ever really had. I had him for 5 minutes. I listened to him. And it's my belief that my mom suffered and is now controlled because she lost her husband. Because we in life so much rely on one another, male to female. When we lose, if we're that connected, how do you live on? I can't judge. I can't judge what happened to me, you know? I can't judge what happened to me because she was married for 50 plus years. And my entire family was on the outside. And they have no idea what happened to me to this day. And the one person who could tell them probably doesn't even remember. And probably didn't realize it was happening when she did it. So, it's really hard to forgive someone when they won't own what they did. It's even harder when you know that they can't if they wanted to. The reason this is so hard for me isn't because of my foster mom. It's because of my biological mom. Because my foster mom, if she was in a healthier place and she still had her husband and everything was normal, she absolutely would have had that conversation with me. She would have owned it. We would have all moved on. Or realistically, my pop would have been around to spank me and make sure that he could use physical abuse to control me within the family the way that was done to someone who used to be my brother. So, I guess we all didn't know better, did we? Bringing the hammer down, guys, is not going to save humanity. It's time to chill out. All right? It's not love. Doesn't work. Never did. Doesn't work. Never did. So, I stand by that. I'm not saying I have your answer. I don't have your answer. I don't have my own answer. But there are a lot of things that we can sit here and say are not the answer. Social media, gold, God, glory. None of them are the answer to being okay with yourself. They're not. They're supposed to be they are made to be supplementation for reality, religion included. Having a relationship with God, we're not supposed to lean on the religion unless we have to. That is the way it was engineered. I've done the research. And I didn't just learn from one side or the other. I read from both books and decided. But I didn't decide. I pretty much just picked out the facts. Or at least what could be made facts of religion. It might seem that I'm impressed with myself, but it's not that I'm impressed with myself. I'm really not. I mean, look at my life. It's terrible, right? It would be delusional for me to be impressed with myself. I'm not impressed with myself. I'm just grateful for the breath in my lungs and the ability to decipher through things that most other people will live their whole life encapsulated by. You know, like I made it out. I made it out. I made it through. I made it. I did. I made it. I might still get in trouble or whatever, but you know what? That's fine. I'm cool. Like, let's go. Let's go. I have my life. I have my freedom. I know the truth about my own past. You better believe I'm humble. Humble enough to sit in front of you right now. You don't deserve my time, and yet you get it. You know why? Because you being here gets me paid. And that goes to my haters, not to my fans. And they'll record this, they'll put up whatever they want to, but guess what? I do that now too. I take this story, I clip it so that people have a piece of it to go by. That's the truth that I want them to see. That they deserve to see. The positivity. The only way they get the whole story is by coming live. It's the only way. Welcome to Feed Piece. Come live, it's the only way you get the truth. It's always been that way. It's still that way. I can't change it even if I wanted to. I could take this whole video and clip it out, take an hour and 5, and go put it on the side for people to watch. Nobody's gonna watch it. They're not gonna watch it. You know, people don't have time. So for my own sake, I'm not gonna clip it. Because it's not my job to tell only the positive side of the story. That's just me manipulating the story the same as anyone else does. I'm going to go live. And just like the platform, I will let the chips fall as they may. And Google and I will split the profits. Because I ain't a prophet. That's insane. I'm just a normal guy. And this is my job. My job is to be here with you guys. It's my job. I apologize for not saying it how it was because I didn't know. Because I was raised in a religion that costs money, in a government that is a business and costs money, because we have taxes and we have tithes. So guess what? When I hopped on this screen, I thought it was that mixture of reality and business. I can finally separate it. I could separate it. So, there are a few things that I want to address for those of you that are, and I will be clipping this out for this piece of it. I can't clip it out, I'll make a separate video. While we're live, I want to address it, because I care to address it live. There are a few things, there's a whole lot of things that people want me to lie about and say that I did. There are 3 things that I did that are absolutely unforgivable and never should have happened. And I'm going to explain to you why and how they happened. Number 1 was, and this is the funny part, is like, as people are sitting there thinking like I'm the freaking Antichrist, the 3 things I have to fess up to are not only left-wing, but they're like the smallest things possible in the right-wing world. But the reason I'm owning them is because the right-wing world needs to know that these things are wrong and that you are destroying society every time you open your mouth about it and like say these things or do them poorly. And these are my mistakes. Number 1, and this is what I'm, guys, worse than a crime. These 3 things I'm about to say are worse than a crime. Now, the physical abuse with Kate in the past, and then Kate's abuse with me, psychological abuse, you know, that's like one thing. But it is something I did to Josh. And we're going to talk about those 3 things now. Because the stuff that happened between me and Kate, the reason it is permissible, and I don't mean permissible as in it should ever have happened, but permissible as in it's our choice as a couple to say, okay, we did this to each other, we can choose what we want to do with that, is between Kate and I. Kate psychologically manipulated and abused me very, very heavily. And then me with Kate in the past, I didn't know what to do. I felt extremely trapped. I had been brainwashed on a level that you cannot even imagine. Number 1 is using the N-word with the A at the end of it. Literally, like years ago, we're still talking about it. There's still people salty about it. So let's have a conversation about that. That was a word that I used with one of my best friends growing up, who was African American. Lived down the road from me. Good guy. Still a good guy. He's got his own issues, but he's a real good guy. That was normal between us. We were culturally insensitive because we grew up in a right-wing area with, you know, he's adopted with white parents, and it was all normal. Like, it was okay. You know, it was okay to be that way. It wasn't really okay, but that's just how we talked. And within my own family and the people around me is, you know, it's a lot of racism. God's honest truth. It's like, you know, I grew up around racism, but I want to make it very clear that I was never a racist. Never happened. Was never a part of who I am. And the way that I explain that to you is that from childhood, my best friend was African American, and growing up, I could never understand. Like, how do I say this? To me, as a human being, I saw people who were of another descent as other people from a different descent. I had that knowledge, like my brain just got it. It made sense. And I think a lot of people who are racist, ironically, being compassionate to a racist, why would you do that? Just realize that on some level they literally just don't have the ability to ascertain that someone who looks differently than them is literally almost exactly like them. Forgive them. Realize that they literally probably don't know. Think about it. I mean, it's hard. It's hard for me to believe that a human being that is like that actually knows what they're doing, because of how destructive what they're doing is. It's very, very difficult for me to believe that what they're doing is intentional, unless they're like, part of an organization. I mean, even then, people will like gather and they'll do that sort of thing for camaraderie. I think just like a lot of different movements, from what I see in society, it seems like a lot of movements have a lot more to do with social acceptance. They have to do with bandwagoning and not wanting to be alone and, finding their tribe. And I mean, it's a pretty sick tribe. So, I mean, to me, but I'm not going to demonize one and exonerate the other, is, stuff like Black Lives Matter and things like everybody's lives matter. And there's still an imbalance in society. It still exists. I mean, we have BET, Black Entertainment Network. What if we had a white entertainment network? Oh my gosh, like, everybody lose their crap. It's just, right now, guys, it is the time of the African American. They have been suppressed and ignored for a very long time. All right, they were slaves to the white people. Like, you got to realize, even if it is reverse racism, like, you kind of got to just realize they have a reason to be upset. Like, we kind of enslaved an entire other race. Kind of a problem. Be patient. Be patient. They're still doing it wrong. Mostly our fault. No joke. Mostly our fault. And they're still not being taught how to do it well. They're angry and upset and afraid. And do you blame them? I don't. Planned Parenthood mostly focuses around the African American community. A lot of different society is still very much slighted against the African American. It's very obvious. It's not that hard to see. Unless you're racist in one way or the other, then maybe it's, overly exerted or underexerted. But so that's where that was, is I would say that. So we were live, and I said the N-word with the A at the end of it. Because I was talking to somebody on live stream or something like that. And somebody, like, the entire room went completely silent. And people began commenting and saying, you can't say that. And I was thinking to myself, because of my upbringing with my friend and me not being a racist, why can't I say that? I don't understand why I'm not allowed to say that. I was ignorant. I was embarrassed. I was on live stream. I was high on caffeine and sugar. And I was extremely prideful. It's just ignorance, guys. It was negligence. Hyped up on a whole lot of other stuff. It was not racism. It came off racist. And, by all means necessary, it would be considered racist. But you have to realize the state of mind I was in order to be sensitive towards why it happened. I apologize. It was pride. Why did I repeat it over and over then, right in that same little area? Because I was so angry that people were trying to tell me what I couldn't do. They may have been right? Like, don't do that. But I'm like, you're literally going to tell me that I can't use words in my, like, this is a free country. I wasn't getting their point. They were not trying to, and any of you that may have been there, you were not, oh no, it's still my fault. The words came out of my mouth, John. John, you gotta chill. Here's why I'm the most disappointed in you, because you've been around the longest, all right? This is still me taking ownership. You guys are just impatient and saying because you didn't hear what you wanted to hear soon enough or in the way that you want to hear it, that it's invalid. it's still valid. It's still valid. I shouldn't have said it. It was my mistake. It's not a matter of making an excuse, guys. It is that most of you may be brainwashed into believing that you just have to own your choices and the people who have wronged you, that it's possible for you to just you just block it out. Like, do you think you're God? It's in your brain. It happened to you. Your trauma matters too. And the only reason, one of the biggest reasons I can imagine and assume that anyone would say to me right now that I'm making excuses is because they've made excuses for others that it was okay for them to make the mistakes they made to them. It's not. It's not. And sometimes we will simply forget, without really forgiving, what other people have done for us, to us, sometimes for us too, right? Just so that we can make excuses and keep them in our lives. I've been doing that for a very long time. Very, very long time. So yeah, that's number one. So I'm sorry to everybody and Oprah. I apologize for my ignorance, my arrogance, my pride. I'm not a racist. Everything they could imagine might make you think, from where I grew up, the way that I talk, all of it, it fits. That's fair. No, I'm the one person that's not like that. Even my own family. I mean, I went and I saw my biological mother, and one of the things that she said that blew my mind was about Pennsylvania, about how it's mostly inbreds and, backwoods, gross people. That's my mom. I could not believe it. I was like, are you sure I came out of your belly? Okay. It's in my blood to be mature and responsible and whatnot. I come from really good blood. Thank you. Great. What I'm not doing is what my family, my biological family, has done for generations. Say that because they have good blood, it entitles them to a better life. Because my foster family taught me that you have to work for what you get. And I want you guys to know they did teach me that. The behavior that you saw from me was because when I knew what happened with my foster mom and my family wouldn't own it and I had a girlfriend. I thought, okay, my next best thing, I should find a girlfriend who is Catholic like I am. And so guess what? Facebook put her right in front of me. And so we went and had a conversation. And then it turned into a dating relationship. And then it moved on from that because I was unhealthy. She saw it, but you know what? We all have our issues, right? I just had to work through mine. She was smart and mature enough to break up with me. Good for her. It's a good choice. Being willing to criminalize me right now, that's not exactly the most mature choice. Not saying that's happening, but definitely being gaslit by our parents. But at this point, I stepped on to the next worst thing, the next worst relationship and setting, simply because I couldn't let go. And I didn't want to admit what happened to me. I should have just let it go. But I had been built into a habit in my childhood of, we're not going to give you attention, we're not going to love you well, and we're going to make excuses as to why, you have a problem and we don't. So we'll buy you something, or we'll do this, or we'll do that. And, they didn't necessarily build that piece of it into me. But, for example, when I was growing up, I had been gifted a go-kart. This is one little example. Gifted a go-kart. When it came time that I needed money to go, and there was something I wanted to do or something I wanted to get, and that go-kart, I was told I was not allowed to sell it. It was gifted to me. It was my property. It was given to me. It was a gift. Then I was told I wasn't allowed to sell it. I'm sitting here like, what? What happened next was that my foster brother, it was given to my foster brother. And then he sold it. And then he sold it. Okay. But hey, I'm a bad guy. All throughout my childhood, all the rest of my family, when I was little, my little brother was an angel. He was a brat, and he destroyed my childhood. He helped destroy. He's a really good person. Don't get me wrong. He's a real good person. But he got away with everything when he was little. I did my best not to fight with him. I love him to this day. He may or may not know that, but I love him a lot. You know, but I'm sure he's already brainwashed against me either way, which is fine. But yeah, and ultimately, me and him were separated, and he was adopted because they wanted to save my mother from having to deal with us fighting. I'm just a bad kid. Well, let me tell you what. As I got older, I started taking responsibility for my own actions. And I started doing things better, even in my teenage years. I had an older brother, who absolutely had every excuse made for him. And everyone I grew up with would definitely agree with that. That he is mama's boy. And I'm pretty sure she believed him over me about me. Because it helped her to, say, okay, well, what happened with them wasn't my fault at all, and well, I'm just too old, and like, you took me on as a human being. You said yes to being my parents. That's kind of a big deal. And, I think they did the best that they could. They tried to do the best that they could. But if they had just let me and my brother fight it out, like normal brothers would, I bet you we would have worked it out. But then that would mean that we would come to a consensus that my mother had some blame. And everyone else just couldn't have that. So, angel of a woman. She is. She's a great person. She's done a lot. The piece that people are missing is that taking those foster kids in, you also make money on that. It may not have been about the money for her, but my foster father, his only stipulation was because there was money coming in to do it. That does not demonize the situation. It doesn't say that it was wrong. It's fantastic. I mean, I have my life because they made that choice. I'm grateful for that. But I'm not going to sit here and lie about it. And me keeping my mouth shut, it builds out a lie about me. And if I'm ripping up someone else's roots because my truth has to get out there, so be it. If someone would have just listened to me when it was all happening, this wouldn't be happening. And we don't get to turn around and say, and I'll use we, people don't get to turn around and say, well, you're just this destructive person. No, I'm not. I'm really not. I'm just a guy trying to live his own life, and I got a lot of emotional problems due to what I've been through. And if people had just been more responsible with me as a child, then I probably wouldn't be opening my mouth now. I'm going to make the responsible choice forward to never mention them again. But it's really nice to be able to let it out right now so that I can move on with my life. And I am going to move on and never turn back. But if they can't get over it and let it go, they'll be chasing me the rest of their life, and they'll never catch me because I'm not running. They're just chasing their own tails, and that's I'm hoping they don't. But that's what a lot of people in my life have done, is they've just chased themselves and chased their tails. I'm really hoping they decide not to chase their tails, but it's not on me. Their choices are not my fault or responsibility. They're not. My own mom looked me in the face and says she's tired of me after me being in her presence less than a week. Guys, I have my own human worth, regardless of how I was treated growing up. And I know that a lot of you who had decent parents and were raised in a decent family, that you understand that. But what the piece that you are being so negligent with my human life about is the lack of recognition for how much I've been through. And totally running it devoid and saying, well, now you're 25, just get over it, move on. You do not recognize mental or emotional abuse on the level that I do. You do not know what I've been through. And it is very negligent, arrogant, rude, and completely destructive to human life to sit here and treat me like I should just move on. Yeah, I agree I should. You're the reason it's so hard. Because I was engineered to prove myself to my family. And in return, I got safe passage to adulthood. And I'm supposed to say thank you. I'm so lucky. It's one of the biggest things I heard growing up. Heard it all the time. You're so lucky, Jimmy. You're so lucky. Lucky, lucky, lucky. I threw away luck. It's not worth it. I don't need luck. Okay? Poor people need luck. And when I say poor, I mean people of poor spirit. People of poor integrity need luck to get by. I have not gotten by this far on luck. No, it's called being tactical. It's called being careful. I sure as hell don't have a plan yet in my life. And the reason I've never had a plan in my life is because I've been basing my life on the way that other people live it. Well, guess what? We're finally getting our footing, and I'm going to make a plan for my life. And it's not going to include anyone from my past. Because that's a healthy move. I'm finally moving on. I can imagine that it's very difficult to believe that when you hear 99% about my past. I am moving on. This stuff has to be said for the sake of myself and for the sake of others. For others who have been through the system. For others who have had foster parents who want to angelicize themselves. And then when you make a mistake, you're just a bad kid. Let's put them in respite. Let's send them to the next home. It's wrong. It's sick. And it starts out with bad parenting. So, if any of you do not want to see a repeat of me, which I don't think any of us do, your best bet is to become a better parent. Or remain a good parent if you are one. Because me never should have happened, and we all agree upon that. I was a mistake. I was born as a mistake. A New Year's baby, more than likely. A gift to the world? No. Negligence of irresponsible elderly parents. People are afraid of birth control. They're afraid of this. They're afraid of that. Like, guys, while you're fighting all these wars, it's us kids that are left to run to the internet for our parents, to run to the internet for comfort and for money. And then you call the internet the devil. You're sending us to the fire because you just don't want to be responsible for your kids, while they're kids. That's just negligence. Like me and Kate, if Kate and I get to stay together, we'll do better. And if we don't, whoever I end up with, I will do better. And Caitlin will have learned this lesson, and she'll make sure that whichever she does with her life, she'll do better. So, that's one lesson I was able to offer her life. What not to do. Who not to trust. What lessons to take. And she'll move on with that. So good for her. But we don't want anyone else in our family anymore. No cult, okay? We don't want that. We're in a relationship. We're focused on our relationship. The screen is a job. And our family didn't teach us that. We taught it to ourselves because we had bad parents. Or at least mediocre parents. My biological mother controlled my sister into such a corner that my sister is like her little puppet. And it's freaky. And now I can't nor want to, quote unquote, save my sister because I couldn't if I wanted to. My mom just has her under that grasp. And ironically, because she did that to my sister turned around and did it to her. And now they're both trapped in this little loop. And Kate and I see it. And I think a lot of the people that they were around see it too. But the reason that this is coming out now is because I spent so long with these ideas of the people in my life and from my past, different than what it actually was. And now that I see what it is, think of it like accidentally pulling up the root. I am making a choice. Oh yeah, I'm making a choice to put my own life on the line and say this out loud. You better believe it. I'm well aware. Um, it's worth it to me. I didn't ask, like here's what my mother said to me, biological mother said to me. She goes, about me and Charlene, she said, you guys never asked to be born. That's what she said. You guys never asked to be born. No, I didn't. Thank God I was. And if the only thing that comes out of my life is a little bit of responsibility, a little bit of correcting of the path for people, and I lose my life, well, good, so be it. Because what else am I worth? What else is it worth to me? Caitlin can live however she pleases. That's the part you're missing. Like, she can live however she wants to. Nobody's stopping her from it, not even me. But for me, is the value of my life has a lot more to do with what's coming for me than what is right now. And it's always been that way, and I thought that was wrong. It wasn't wrong because I didn't know who I was, and I still don't fully know who I am, so I look to the future. But I would say in about 3 years I should be back to normal, or I should be normal when I never really was, and I can just move on, and we'll have a good life and a good career. Either we or myself, I don't know. I don't know what it looks like, but so number one was the N-word with an A at the end of it. And we talked about that earlier, guys. You can't scroll back because people usually record they're probably recording it live, but I was trying to prevent recording it. I probably should turn the DVR back on. And I turned off embedding because people are like putting it. I keep running away from the bad guys when really all I just have to do is do me. I'm learning that. And this is me doing me, and people will say because it's at the cost of others' name. No, they just lack character. The only reason their character is being exposed is because I'm not going to let mine go to rest, because we are not in a state yet where defamation is a crime. It will be soon. It's suable. Feel free to sue me. I have $0. Feel free to sue me. How does that make you look? You probably don't care how it makes you look. You're too prideful. Or
Defamation and truth are two different things. You have to be careful what you're saying.
here's the thing, Katie. It is the truth, but by definition, it could be taken to court as defamation. That's how it works. I'm telling you that I'm willing to do it because what do I have to lose? My life. That's all I have to lose is my life. That's all I've got left. I don't have my freedom. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I sure as hell don't have my freedom. I couldn't get a job if I wanted to. I finally realized that none of my family is really even worth having as family. I mean, you name it. I'm just some homeless guy who got a hotel from, my controlling ex-family who wants to make themselves look good. They've tossed me like garbage. It's quite clear. So, okay, all right then. Here's where we are. The other half of that is that we're grateful for what we've received. And when people say I'm not humble, I'm saying thank you to my aggressors. They may not have been aggressors in the past, but slowly but surely they became that. It's not their fault. They had their own lives to live. That's fine. But criminalizing me because they don't like what I have to say about it, well, that's just suppressing my rights and trying to spin the story for their own exoneration. The more that we fight to be right, the more we end up wrong. I'm not fighting to be right. I'm already right. That's why it's coming out of my mouth. So, nobody else is saying it. No, they'll talk behind my back. It's my family did my whole childhood. It's what they still do with each other. That's insane. Family gossip. I don't have to do it. That's why I left. It's a joke. And I didn't move 30 or 40 minutes down the road. I got the hell out of Dodge. So, and now here I am. I'm right back again. And they might try to paint the picture because, they own a cop. But I guess we'll find out. Paint whatever they want. I'll be okay. It's learning not to be afraid because I was framed in the past. I would like to not be framed again. But now I'm bigger. Okay, I'm bigger. Well, no, it's good. I'm okay. What I'm saying is I am bigger than that now. And I don't mean here or whatever. I mean in here. In here, I'm above it. So if they try to bring small town drama on me to make me look bad, That's all it is small town drama. And yeah, it will carry with me for the rest of my life. They'll make a small dime on it. I'll make a hell of a lot of money on it. Because it'll be one article. And yeah, it'll define the rest of my life for some people, Kate. But what about when things are good? Because they will be good. Well, you think about you. I know what you're thinking about, and I love you, and I thank you. Thank you, Katie. This is me. You don't know how much I have to stand up for myself. You do not know what I've been through. I love you, but I'm letting you know you're wrong about me right now. I know you're just looking out for me, but it's not helpful. I have to look out for myself, and whatever mistakes I make, I have to pay for them, and I want to. I want that battle. You know why? Because my family could pick a fight with one another, but they'd pick a fight with me, and if I tried to fight back, they acted like a victim. Sound familiar? Thank you to all of my haters for showing me that my family is just like you. I had no idea. I was gaslit and manipulated so heavily that I never saw it. I'm glad you guys are all talking. I think that's very good. I'm glad that you guys are sticking to regularity. That's good. I'm working through my stuff, and it's all the good. Ironically, I officially have good men in my life who see that I'm just working through my drama. Thank you, Steven. Thank you, Snarf. Thank you, Josh. Who, Gordon, if you're taking another turn, I don't know. But thank you to those of you, because those are men who have been in my corner, who have listened to me, who have seen my crap. They do want to see me move on. They don't necessarily realize how much I've been through. And I'm starting to realize that you got a girlfriend, and the way that you did, you're trying to know what I went through, trying to help me out, literally trying that hard. And I was willing to believe something totally different in a bad way. They exist. Good women. I'm looking for them. I see one. And I'm sorry for any women out there that if you are good, I just don't know who you are yet. I don't. I might already. But I'm really confused right now about who I can trust. And so I seem like I'm attacking people or whatever. I'm just really defensive because I've gone unheard this long, and I'm not lying, and no one will listen. And now that the truth is out, it's like nobody wants to hear it anymore. They never did. Well, you're crying wolf, Jimmy. I never, maybe when I was little, I was a fibber when I was little, okay? I ain't fibbing now. Times change. I'm not 10 or 12. I'm not 14. I'm not crying for attention. All right, patterns do change. People do change. Very hard to believe, but it happens. I may not be totally innocent, but we're going to have a conversation, even if it costs me my life. Because that's how much it's valuable. It's that valuable to me. I don't have anything else. I'm going to cling to what I have left, just like you. Everybody's going to cling to what they got. That's all I got is my story. That's what I've been through. And potentially where I'm going. That's all I got left. So as you can imagine, I'm going to fight for it. Ironically, if people wanted me to just put it down and put it away, they should have just listened to me. That's on them. My actions, opening my mouth, that is on me. And I accept it willingly and happily because my voice and my mouth is about the only thing I've got. So I'm using it. Anyway. I don't need anybody criminalized or looking bad because people aren't bad. The people that raised me, all that, they're good people. I love them. They did their best. Wasn't enough. Sometimes we have to accept failure. I'm not the failure. All right? As a human being, you don't call a human being a failure simply because things didn't turn out the way that you wish they did for that person, and then be willing to believe lies about them just to confirm your own biases. It's not true. Give me time. Be patient with me. Continue to be patient with me. Because I have a lot to work through. And I'm going to work through it. So, and it's a bone that I will not give up. It's not going to change. It'll never change till the day I die. So long as I have a phone and a screen, I will not be silenced. And I'm not on a vendetta for anybody outside of myself. All right? I'm getting everybody else out of my head. And talking about it is half the battle for me. So, and if you notice, look at me. All right? This is body language. I'll tell you right now, as I'm like unaware of my own self, as my shoulders are forward, I'm pressed down. I feel like I can't even breathe. And it's not just because I'm talking so much. I really have this much childhood trauma, and it's not just from my infancy. It is also from my upbringing. And I can understand if it's very difficult to believe. But look at my behavior right now. It's not just, I'm telling you my story. You should hear me. Because if you don't, you have to live with that. I care about that. Because I think realistically, guys, we're coming to the fact that I don't have to live with it. We all know that, even I do. Even I do. Like, I don't have to live with what they did to me if I don't want to. The reason I want to is because I don't want to let go of them because I love them all. I do. And that's why I'm even willing to scream to the heights and the heavens on camera and talk in circles or, sound insane, whatever. I'm willing to shout as loud as I have to for the people that I love to hear me. Have an awesome book in a few years. Yeah, maybe. Because for me, this comes down to family. We all got our insecurities and our problems, and like you guys don't have to admit yours, you don't have to whatever. But if I'm gonna bring them to the table, and you're gonna slap my food off the table and say it's worthless, I'll just tell the internet you did it, because that's the only defense I got left. You took me on. You don't turn around and say no because you change your mind because things didn't turn out the way you wish they would. It's sick. I don't have to manipulate anybody or guilt anybody into anything. The guilt is there. I'm just uncovering it. It's already there. You telling me it's not there is your way of covering it up and then making me feel guilty for the rest of my life for shit I never did. Like I was a child. It's a child. Are you kidding me? My child that way? Absolutely not. I'm going to turn around and put it in your face to make sure that I figure out what happens when I do. And then whenever I have my child, I know a little bit better of what to do and what not to do, how to react, how not to react. And if there's a million things that I don't realize, just so you know, we all have real problems, including you. We all have real problems. These problems are real. We all have real problems. You can call me selfish. That's fine. Then I guess I'm selfish. Then I guess I'm selfish for wanting to work through my issues before I potentially die. What would you do? What would you do? What would you do if the government fell apart right now? I'll tell you what I'd do. I'd shut my mouth and I'd try to help people. The government's still here. We're stable. More people die from the flu than coronavirus. Okay? At least presently. May change, maybe it won't. We're not there yet. Everybody's afraid of the future. Present's right here. It's happening right now. I'm talking about the past because there are people from my past in the present who are not owning the past. That's why the conversation's being had. I'm fronting, okay? Having a conversation with my aggressors. Sit back and enjoy. Because I'm getting paid for it and you get to watch. Shouldn't have to. It's sick. My only other choice is to just let them die. And that's not who I am. I was raised to die for them. So I guess that's what I'll do. Or at least come to the cusp of it before I finally realize it's not worth it. But I guess we'll find out. All right, number 2. Homophobia. To regain interest here. Homophobia. Am I a homophobe?
At present, yep. I didn't realize it. God's honest truth, I didn't know. I'm going to explain to you how I became a homophobe, how I ended up in this position. Deep conversation, yep. How did I become a homophobe, and when did I come to see it? I was raised in an area where homosexuality is very repressed and is seen as an illness. It may or may not be. I'm not the one that knows. But I was definitely raised by people who see it as people who are very sick and they don't want to spend their time around them. And then, into my adulthood, I had a family friend of mine who, um, they know someone, they're friends with someone who is. There's, where I grew up, there was a whole lot of homosexuality that it was, or not a whole lot, it was just very rare. There wasn't a whole lot of it. And where it existed, it was usually like just in my high school. We didn't really know any adults that were homosexual, but just in my middle school and in high school, there were a couple of kids who were, and I mean, they were completely outcast. And, to be honest, they were very unkempt. They didn't take care of themselves. And how do I put this? As a kid, not being educated on homosexuality, like, what else do you think? I was raised to believe that they're sick individuals who, gave up their humanity and they're like devils. So I was taught growing up, pretty much. That those words never came out of my family's mouth. I want to make that clear. The most it was working on the farm and hearing, what are you, queer? What are you, queer? Or, you're a faggot or you're gay. Like that, I heard that all the time growing up. And so that was commonplace and not really was homosexual. And then the only homosexuality that I had experience with was through brainwashing of the church. A slighted opinion from a book that I had read for an organization that was, slighted towards the Catholic Church, and then not really knowing anyone who was stable and healthy who was homosexual. It was very difficult for me to ascertain that it was a natural or healthy thing. And I still, I don't even know yet. And that's not, guys, don't look at me and be like, well, you won't just accept that it's true or real. If you understood the level of brainwashing and social, engineering that I've experienced through my upbringing, then you'd get why it's so difficult for me. And it's also a wise decision not just to buy into an idea until you understand more about it. And if people are sitting there wondering, well, why don't you get educated right now? Because I'm not there yet. If you haven't noticed, I'm still getting through my own past. You know what I mean? Maybe I can start advocating for others once I figure out where I stand and who I am. So for me, I don't support nor neglect homosexuality or other individual sexes right now, and that's where I have to stand. I don't want to stand there forever. I want to know more. I want to get it, and then make a decision for myself, because that's a mature thing to do. And in our country, we're provided with these freedoms to be able to do as we please with, in reference to our free will. And so I don't know yet where I stand, and I need time and patience with that, because I have one singular friend who is a stable homosexual. One. Every other homosexual that I have experienced in my life has made me feel sexually uncomfortable. They have made passes on me sexually, sexual, innuendos, or, and that's Josh included, just have been very aggressive with their sexuality and made me extremely uncomfortable. It's sexual harassment. And, that may be partially attributed to the area that I grew up, that there was not a whole lot of selection, you might say. And as a human being, I can come off very feminine. So with my attitude oftentimes coming off feminine, it can be difficult for people to believe that I'm straight, and that I'm not bipolar, that I'm not bisexual or homosexual or what have you. Especially I'm wearing Kate's shirt right now, right? I'm doing it to make a point. I'm not a homosexual myself, and I'm not bisexual. I am heterosexual.
is how I identify, is who I am, and that's my nature. This is how I'm born, how I'm raised, who I am, and if that changes in the future, it may change in the future. There are people who are born born the way that they're born, and there are some people who choose it. At least from what I see in all of the culture of society, that there is natural born and there's chosen. And for me personally, right now, I believe that I am natural born heterosexual, and I choose to remain a heterosexual. As far as what the future looks like, I'm not. I have no idea. I'm where I'm at right now. I can tell you that I don't have any natural attractions to men, and any attractions to men that I've had have been completely manipulated and like forced onto me in a way where I have reacted violently. And that was with Josh. With Josh is he came to our house and it was extremely inappropriate, and he made me feel very sexually uncomfortable, and I would oftentimes catch him looking at a certain part of my body that was totally inappropriate, and it was just, he would not control his urges to control or to seek out certain things with me. And he didn't do that actively. I don't think he did it on purpose. And I never really even had the conversation with him, and I never want to. I'd rather have it right here where I make money. And the reason being is I spent 3 years trusting a guy who lied to my face. And so I owe him no favors, and he owes me none either. So, if he supports us and helps, we're grateful, but I only receive it so much as I need. And then for me, for pretty much everybody, I want them out of my life, because everybody wants something from me that's totally inappropriate. And it has to do with controlling me, whether it's sexually, whether it's socially, whether it's believing that my life belongs to their God. All I see is a whole bunch of people trying to take over my narrative. That's impossible to do. I know that it's impossible to do, no matter how it looks. It's my narrative, it's my life. You will not manipulate me into believing that I am someone that I am not. If you let me know some things that I did, different story. But understanding the intricacies of what brought me to do them or how they happened, it's a very different story. So with Josh, he made me feel real uncomfortable, and so I fought back. And Josh, I hope you're watching this, because if you're telling me the truth that you're becoming a more honest man, I hope it's the truth. Good on you. If it's not, that's on you too. But for me, yeah, I fought back. I hit back because of my experiences with other homosexual men, mixed with his constant lying, mixed with the fact that we had been stalked by so many people and aggressively abused, and that we had no other way to pay the bills, and it was impossible for us to get jobs because we had been so gaslit and manipulated into a corner, and our names looked really bad. And so I was pretty much forced to bring Josh to the house, because otherwise we would just be homeless on the street in the middle of winter again. And so I did what I had to do. I invited in someone who I already knew wanted to take my life, and I fought for it. And Caitlin, unfortunately had to experience that and witness that, and we're making it through and we're getting better. And her parents didn't help, and they weren't trying to help. They're trying to regain control of a human being who they realized, if she gained her freedom, would one day tell her story the way that I do. And they'll do anything to stop it. When they don't realize is, if they just own their own crap right now, she'll never even want to or have to. Take my life as an example. The only reason that, I've made my mistakes, of course, but for the most part, the only reason anyone's coming after me is because they don't want to be found out for their crimes against humanity. Because they realize just because it's not a legal crime doesn't make it any less permissible in society. So, I have my own stuff to own up to, and I don't think what anyone's expecting is that if it ever, if I wasn't the one to bring out my own mistakes, that, I'm not going to own them. Everyone's going to be surprised if it happens. I'm literally just going to say, all right, show me the proof. They show me the proof. Okay. I look in the face. Okay, I did that. Whether on purpose or on accident, I plead guilty. It really is that simple for me. but nobody believes it. So they're all hiding behind my back and trying to do their investigations or, you know, whatever. And you could literally just knock on my door and ask me a couple of questions, and I'll just tell you what's up. But you know what I mean? Nobody, they're busy painting their own stories. They want to paint their own picture, like they're in an insane asylum. You know, like, here's the reality. Let me paint it as I please. When you don't even look me in the face as a human being, like, come to my doorstep, look me in the face, have a conversation, ask me some questions. You know, that's what adults do, without trying to control the situation like they did when the sheriffs came to our door. Just trying to control the situation. There's nothing to control here. All right, all this is out of control, but you are not capable of controlling it. You know, it's out of your jurisdiction, you might say, and the FBI ain't gonna do a thing about it. And that's perfectly fine with me because it's almost over. We're gonna just move on because they have bigger fish to fry, and I'm not one of those fish. As much as you're gaslit to believe, you know, by a bunch of crazy people, nope. When this all comes to pass and to rest, there's going to be a lot of people actually left without answers unless I give them to them. Because you're going to realize the people who have been giving you quote-unquote answers have been doing nothing but lying to you and building their story year over year. And I'm not that guy. So, as I work through my issues, we come to the point where I'm starting to get ready to answer questions and have a conversation. But what I know is that the quote-unquote enemy, the bad guys, they work in the shadows. If somebody doesn't come to my face with a conversation, then I'm not going to trust them. And if there is anything going on as far as a legitimate investigation into me, a smart decision would be to, you know, actually show up and have a conversation. Because otherwise, you want me to rehabilitate. If I have a problem, right? You want me to rehabilitate and then be a productive member of society. You don't do that by hiding behind my back and trying to collect evidence, if that's happening. I'm just trying to make a point. You do not come to my doorstep with deceptive tactics. If you would like my trust, if you would like me to serve your society, I'm perfectly capable of that. There's a lot of good things I could do for society, but we're too busy lying to one another. I'm not interested in that society. All right? And I don't believe that's the American society or how it works, but it's definitely the tactics that have been used on us so far. From people of religion, from people of the government, you name it. Deception. I don't trust deception. I want a good God to serve. I want to serve the public. I absolutely do. I'm going to do it honestly. And if that's not your style, then you don't deserve the power. It's abusive power. So, you know, it's not crapping on any particular person because that's what they're taught to do. They're taught to deceive and lie. That needs to change. It doesn't mean that the establishment needs to be toppled. That's insane. At least from my perspective, that's insane. It doesn't mean that we need to criminalize the church. That's insane to me. But what it does mean is that there's a couple of people in my life that will or will not take responsibility for their actions. And if they don't, then I'm just going to move on. And they're never going to receive anything from me ever again. Times are changing. Life is changing. I'm the one that sees it. And we're making efforts to move forward. And I was really hoping that we could drop the narcissism of not being able to receive a gift. Because that's just so you know, that is just as bad. To not be willing to receive something in return, saying that someone has nothing to offer you or whatever. It's another big reason why I'm in the spot I'm in is because there's a lot of people I could have helped who they don't want my help. They don't want help at all, you know. And that's just being full of yourself. Like I see where things are going. I'm a smart guy, and I don't know how long it's going to take for other people to see it, but it just sucks to finally know. Kate and I, or even just myself, I might even have to just do it on my own. That sucks. Because I was really hoping to bring some people along who supported me along the way. So when I made my promise for Feet Peace Mansion and Feet Peace Island, I meant my promises. I did. I just didn't realize how impatient and rude and controlling and manipulative all the people were on the other end. And I mean all, for the most part. I'm sure there's 2 or 3. Like, the impatience. I had no idea. I figured that I was that naive and gullible that I thought they trusted me and that they realized that it wouldn't happen overnight and that in time I would be able to offer something to their life. And I meant that. I mean, I still mean it. And I'm not trying to tempt you with it. I was never trying to tempt you with it. I meant my words, and I still do. And even Josh, with everything that's gone through and the way things that have how they've been. You asked Caitlin. Caitlin was shell shocked. Because even last night I said, you realize Josh is still going to have that mansion next to us. He's still going to have his own place and whatnot. We're going to help him get it. And she looked at me with the most dumbfounded look. Because, it seems unbelievable. And I seem insane, like, oh my gosh, he must be completely crazy. Just sit and wait a couple of weeks. Give me 3 months. But you don't have to give me 3 months. Like, it's my life. I have 3 months. So long as I have 3 months, right? As long as someone else doesn't try to make a decision for us again. Or decide what the truth is, or whatever, that's fine. But give it 3 months. Give it 3 months. And watch what happens. Just watch. So that's the second piece of it. And if it doesn't happen in 3 months, then maybe it happens in 3 years. This is my point, guys. Is I make a lot of my predictions about my life based on me. What I'm starting to do is involve people on the outside in those decisions because I'm realizing there's a lot of people who want to stick their finger in my pie. So, I don't always have a clean piece for you to eat. All right. That was number 2, is homophobia. I'm working through homophobia. It's very difficult. I have not met a whole lot of people who are homosexual and healthy. Now here's the caveat. I have also not met a lot of people who are heterosexual and healthy. And I have finally come to see that brainwash I was receiving. Most people who are heterosexual are just as unhealthy and sexually harassing. I learned that through my relationship, how men treat her, whistling at her. I could punch him out. Are you kidding me? But guess what? Physical violence doesn't solve anything. So I don't. I shut my mouth, I look at her, ask her what she'd like me to do, and she says, let's just take a walk. And I do, and I don't get too mad because I realize that they misunderstand what they're doing. They don't realize the damage they're doing. That's why she forgives them and moves on. So yeah, as far as acceptance and love of those who operate differently than I do, you might say, I'm working on that. I'm working really hard on that. So for those of you willing to forgive me for the homophobia that I still do have, it would mean a lot to me if you forgive me. Because my homophobia comes from a place of misunderstanding. It comes from a place of manipulation. And if I'm ever going to understand, it does begin with forgiveness from those who, support homosexuality. You're going to have to realize, like, if I'm ever going to be that way, you have to realize how sensitive I am. And that you're going to have to be real tender with me without being sexual in order for me to, recognize, even start being open to understanding. Acceptance is one thing. Tolerance is sick. I grew up in a family of tolerance. They were tolerant of African Americans, tolerant of homosexuals. That's very different than acceptance. The surrogate family that I moved my way into, you might say, that was acceptance. Acceptance of people, outside who we are. But then who I really am is someone who wants to understand. I misunderstand. And that it will take a very long time because of my past to come to understanding. And I will not simply say that I understand. I accept the possibility of who you are and what you're saying, but you are so foreign to me. Now I said not race, but homosexuality is something for me that's a real hard touching point because I've been so heavily abused in that arena and received sexual abuse in that arena. So it's a very touchy one for me. But with enough patience and time, I'll get there. If I'm supposed to be there. But it doesn't happen through attacking me, ever. And you're not helping yourself or helping me by attacking me over it. And I don't need pity. If I was looking for pity, I know I'm getting some pity, guys. If you pity me or sympathize with me, don't do it. Have compassion and understanding, or at least compassion and acceptance. They're different than pity and sympathy. You know, sympathy is like feeling bad for somebody. Pity is like, oh God, poor him. I'm not looking for those. I'm just realizing that I will receive it from some people. That's not my fault, and it's not what I'm seeking out. I'm seeking compassion, acceptance, and understanding of myself because I am ready, willing, and making an effort to have compassion for, accept, and understand people outside the jurisdiction of my understanding. I'm not going to apologize that it took me 5 years. Here's why. Most people that grow up in my environment, grow up the way that I did, all of the different variables that have to do with my life up until now, would say that there is no way that I would ever be anything except homophobic and racist, and that I would end up, spending the rest of my life trying to please my family. Thank God for the internet. Pulled me out of the mud. But it will uproot a whole lot of people if they don't just relax and leave me alone. I am leaving them alone. Like, I'm fine. I'd like to be done. It's just every time it comes up, there's a lot to work through. I'm going to work through it, and I'm not going to feel guilty about it because it never should have happened, but it did. I'm not shutting my mouth just so that someone else could, keep lying to everybody about me. Story of my life so far. I shouldn't have to fight for my freedom. But you know what? Freedom isn't free. And it's entitlement to believe I shouldn't have to fight for my freedom. If I'm not going to fight for my country, if I'm not going to fight for my religion, if I want my freedom as a human being in society and I don't want to subscribe to anyone else's systems of protection, then I will have to fight wholeheartedly to remain at least semi-understood. Because there's going to be most people misunderstanding me. So I need to be very careful with my words. And I'm trying to become more and more careful. It's just going to take a lot of time to do that. And anyone that pulls themselves out into that light and ruins their own lives and then turns around and says it's my fault, I mean, you picked up the phone. You're listening to someone's messages. You're recording, whatever. Whatever you are not involved in, your best bet is to just step away. If it is outside your arena, outside what you understand, if you try to bring my life and what's gone on here down to that little perspective, to believe that, anything that you would do is really going to silence things or end things long term, it will not. Because if it's not me, it's going to be somebody else. Because if something happens to me, there's going to be people on the internet who have vendettas of their own who are going to say, this happened to him and now he's the martyr. You think they're going to let you go? I don't control that. It's not my fault. It was there before I got on here. It's most definitely not a part of my agenda or something that I'm interested in. But whatever we put out is oftentimes what we're going to receive. And I am putting out blame that belongs where it belongs. It doesn't belong to me. The blame that I have, I own for myself. I do not need help owning it. I just need patience from people to let me get myself there to have that conversation. I'm the guy that is going to audit myself. I am the guy who is going to get on live stream and say things that I actually did wrong or things that I didn't, without embarrassment, realizing that they're mostly not my fault because I was manipulated on a ridiculous psychological level. With war tactics, no. But I'll be doing those things over the next 3 years. God willing that I still have my freedom and we have the opportunity that I have the opportunity to do that someone else doesn't take the job from me, you might say. Because if they do, they might end up trying to throw in a whole bunch of stuff that isn't there, and they're only going to screw themselves, and then we're going to pull up more roots, and I have a feeling that may happen, but as people complain about chaos, they kind of invite it, just like I did in the past. I'm not inviting chaos. I'm seeking order in my own life. No more crazy symbolisms, no more of that weird stuff. I'm moving on with my life. But the way it's affecting others is not going to be on me. That's insane to believe that the way I live my life, however it affects them, is my fault. You live your life, I'll live mine. Here on in, you live yours, I'll live mine. Period. Think whatever you got to think about me. Just leave me out of your drama, please. Because I see court, I see incarceration, I see, being put away for being insane. That's all just drama, because it's untrue. And it's drama. If it has to do with somebody else, everybody has their issues. But for the most part, my issues came from other people's drama, other people's problems, other people's baggage that I was socially engineered to believe I had to hold. And so I brought another human being into my interior life, thinking that it was my job to help them or save them. And because I did that, here we are. I'm responsible for my actions. I'm very glad that I decided to say yes to Caitlin when her parents totally rejected her for simply not conforming to their social and religious beliefs and the way that they live. But now I gotta face the consequences. And funny enough, I may end up facing consequences that don't belong to me. Simply because everybody wants to size up with me. We got all these big tough men who want to size up with me. Like, I'm the one that's not in competition. Alright? Like, you don't have to own me or be my daddy or any of that weird stuff to know that you deserve to have your own confidence. Your confidence is within yourself. My confidence is within myself. And as hard as it may be to admit, that's why there's so many unhealthy men trying to make an example of my life and, teach me a lesson. It's their insecurity. I have a lot to own up to. I got a lot of bills to pay. I got a lot of things I got to figure out. We all agree on that. But trying to force me to say that you're right or to shut my mouth is not the way it's going to happen. You'll just end up with more debt. Everybody will just end up in a worse off place except for me. It might look like I'm worse, but as usual, I'm the one growing and learning. It will appear as though I'm getting worse. I'm suppressed for a time, and so it looks worse. But then I'm able to get a better shirt. I'm able to move on with my life, and that's what I'll always do, is just move on. But I'm the guy moving on. It would be great if you moved on too. Look at how much it's increased my intelligence. Moving on. Some of the past still needs to be worked through. It's worth it for everyone. And when I talk about possible other angles, it's out of fear. Because I've seen certain behaviors from people that I thought would never behave that way, and it's freaking me out. So that's why I'm acting the way that I am. I have no agendas. I will benefit from this either way. I'm the one that doesn't need a plan. Because at the end of the day, my name on the internet makes me money. And it makes other people money too. I have my career. No one believed I had it. I was willing to listen to them about it. Well, I'm right. And if something happens to me, Caitlin takes the phone. She has full permissions to make content while I'm away. And then we come back, regular life. And, maybe there's $5-6 grand a month waiting for me. I put in the effort. I double down on the people I care about. And those who betray me are going to end up betraying themselves and hurting themselves. But for the people who decide to finally realize, hey, he's gaining his stability, gaining his footing, and things are getting to a healthy place they've never really been, they're going to reap that reward, and they need to be smart enough to see that that reward's not a temptation just because it's coming from someone who doesn't, worship a guy on a cross. Humanity is humanity, and you got to take the gifts where they come. And if you kick a gift horse in the mouth, well, look what happened to me for how many gift horses I've kicked in the mouth. Look at how it's affected my life. Never again. And I'm still doing it a little bit. But you know what? I'm getting through it, and I'm learning to let it go. And I'm working through my delusions, you might say. But a lot of what I'm saying is not nearly as delusional, nor a delusion, than some of you might think. Difficult to believe, It's really just how it is. So, if you are watching this live, good on you. You are someone who cares enough to get the full truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God. And I'm not finished yet, because I still have some confessing to do. Another thing that really brainwashed me was the belief that I needed a confessor. Even now, here I am, right? That I need a confessor to move on. But I'm very thankful for the sacrament of confession when I was Catholic, because I'm finally seeing that confession is absolutely necessary. If we do not confess for our crimes, whether they are legal crimes or crimes against humanity, it's just like it has eaten me inside, and I lied to myself for so long. Like, I'm a homophobe. That's a problem. I see that as a problem. You got to realize the reason I never saw it as a problem was because I was so brainwashed into my religion and my social setting. I was a fool. Still am a fool to some degree, I'd imagine. And I hope to the people watching, that you don't react to me, that you realize that if you see me as a fool, it probably is because I'm fooled, and not because I want to hurt anybody. So I'm not innocent. I don't want your gifts anymore. I don't trust them. But the reason I began accepting gifts and wanted more was this engineering thing that happened, quote unquote, on accident. In the surrogate family that I kind of had was I felt more connected to them when they would give me gifts or take me out to eat or something like that, because that was really the only time we did anything, is when they gave me a gift. And so I fed into that because I wanted the attention. I wanted a mom. And so I would get things, and I would get more and more things, or food, or money, or things that got me by. And really, it wasn't about the things. It was about the attention that I got, because I was willing to accept gifts. And funny enough, I could look at it like this big negative thing, right? Where it was the most unhealthy relationship possible. But if we bring it back to reality, the reality is neither angle is the biggest truth here. It wasn't just receiving gifts in return for the attention, and it was definitely not receiving the attention or asking for attention in return for gifts. It was neither one. It was the thing that I learned was how to receive, because it is something that it is something that I had not seen around me, was people willing to receive gifts. Most people want to give, but receiving is so hard. It is so hard to receive a gift, whether that gift is knowledge, whether that gift is money. Receiving is very difficult, especially when we think that person doesn't have something to offer us, or if we don't like that person. Everybody has something to offer to our life, and when we don't receive that gift, sometimes we can spoil a relationship, or vice versa, if we're not willing to give back. Or at that, it's even worse if the person isn't willing to accept, something that you may have to give back. It's just from whatever position they're in of misunderstanding. It can completely soil and destroy a relationship. And so I have a lot to offer to a lot of people, and they're like, well, you have zero, you have almost no money, socially perceived, you have mental illness, you're abusive, you look so bad online, you have no clothes, you have no family. Well, what do you have to offer? Well, aren't you the fool? And I definitely mean emotional offense, because I am extremely offended. And I'm realizing that it's not an offense, it's a defense. Me saying this is a defense. I am offended by all these people who think I have nothing to offer to their life. I'm so offended by that. Because as it stands, they want to say because I haven't provided them with a whole lot and I've received a whole lot, that then it means I have nothing to offer, or that they're sick of me, right? Well, you didn't perform the way that we prefer And so now please escort yourself off the planet. I will be very patient with all of you who are acting that way because it is sick, it is depraved. I understand my actions have been atrocious. You do not understand how I got there or what happened. And I will take the time for myself in patience and seeking understanding for the level of ignorance that you are experiencing. Because of course I am ignorant, but so are you. And if you're not ignorant to anything else, then you're ignorant to my feelings. And that matters. Just like everyone else's. My feelings are a lot more hurt than yours. Fact. And my feelings matter. That doesn't make me a victim. It's called self-respect. And sometimes respecting yourself is to stand up for your feelings. Say, I'm not a victim, but you still hurt my feelings. That matters. Men should do that, women should do that. My opinion. That's equality. So everyone's feelings matters, because when the man's feelings are ignored for the sake of the woman's feelings, the man is left bankrupt in one way or another. I need a break. Give me 2 minutes. Oh.
Yeah, that's about last time I had some chicken.
What'd you make some?
Mhm.
Okay, I'm gonna take this tea. I gotta pee real quick.
Okay.
You wanna throw this on, but talk to them for a minute, or not really? Just fine. That'll take me 2 seconds. Just, will you go talk to them off screen? Just talk to them. You don't have to get on screen. Just talk to them, so
Okay.
it's not an empty broadcast.
Hi everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Let's see. Today looks like a really beautiful day. It's a bit cloudy. Very nice though. I don't have a lot to talk about today because I am sorting through my own things and I don't fully know myself yet, and I am, over the past couple of days especially, taking extra effort to establish my own independent and confident mindset. I have been working very hard to do that, but over the past couple of days I have been pouring almost all of my energy into doing that instead of there's other things that I've had to work on or had to think about or this or that or whatever. In these past couple of days, I've really been working on that, and it's made me very happy. So I know, I don't know. All I'm gonna say is that
You don't have to stand up for me anymore.
I
I love you.
oh,
I already hear where it's going. You're not? Yeah, you are. I love you, baby. I got me.
Okay.
Finally, I got me. Thank you very much.
But yeah. So I'm doing really well. Getting back to me. Well,
That's
I'm
right.
not even getting back to me. Like, I'm getting to me in the first place, because it's almost like before where I wasn't even entirely me to begin with, because I had so many different voices or words in my head that even if they weren't from people saying them, I read so many books, I didn't have any real worlds of my own. My world wasn't even my world. It was 1,000 different fantasy novels mushed together. So.
And she's not becoming a part of my world, I can tell you guys that. Every time she tries to, I push her off.
It's true.
So, yeah, we're finding our own identities within the same space. I may be talking a lot here on screen, but I want you to know that I am talking less and less in real life. Ask Caitlin.
Yep.
I am. Not everything you see on screen is how real life is. So, you know, the days happen, there's ebbs and flows. This isn't MTV, this isn't Big Brother, this isn't Jersey Shore. You see a portion of what goes on. And the portion of what's going on off of screen and what's going on screen are becoming more alike in like a good way. What's happening on screen is getting better, what's happening off screen is getting better. All right. Last thing. What was it? The N-word, homophobia, and last but not least, the word "we." It's a heavy word. And let me tell you guys, I was willing to retract the word "love" before I was willing to retract the word "we." The love is true. I love people. Maybe I'm insane, but like I really love people. I love everybody, you guys included. And I can relate to my mother in the way where my biological mother, and see, this is a positive. It might seem like, oh my gosh, in one moment you're saying such bad things about them, and another moment you're talking about them, like they're your family. Because they are my family, but we all have issues. But the issues within the families are so big. And they're trying to bring them down. No, you don't realize how much they're detrimental to your family. I'm trying to help my family. They don't want to be helped. All right, well, don't help yourself to hurting me because it ain't going to help you. I just want to help my family. I really, really do. And it's so annoying that nobody wants my help. It's so annoying. They've never wanted my help. Even when I was young, I would try something one time, and if it didn't go the way that they wanted, then I was just, well, no, I'll do it. Just put it down to me. It's okay. You're not capable. You can't. I don't have the time. I don't have the time. Well, guess what? I got all the time in the world for you because you're my family and I love you. I got all the time in the world. So please, continue to take my time and patiently forgive yourself. But don't forgive me. Don't do that. Demonize me because everyone else says it's okay. I'm trying to set things straight. I'm an adult now, remember? I'm not the 12-year-old you used to know. And I'm not the teenager you used to know. I'm a much better person. And as you can imagine, being a follower of Jesus on the internet attracted a whole lot of crazy people for 5 years. Right? Because there's a lot of people on the internet that are going 6666666. They're all with their voodoo stuff. And then I hopped on that train too. It's nuts. I stepped away from it. And that's so judgmental for me to say, but I was biased and raised in a Christian home where, am I supposed to respect Satanism? I guess so. I'm not, that's not who I am, but I just want you guys to understand that in a perception of equality, we are expected to accept even religions such as Luciferianism and Satanism, and worshiping these Egyptian gods like some people do. That's their religion. Free and accepted. That's their religion. And we have freedom. I'm not condoning it. I'm not against it. I'm not supportive of practices, but what I'm starting to see is I look at Christianity, and ironically, after being friends with a Satanist, he was a Satanist, and there was also another friend I had who was a Luciferian. They're a little different. So a Luciferian doesn't have a church; they do their own thing. But they're their own god. I'm not my own god. That is a big difference right there. So I'm not my own god. I don't see myself as my own god. So I'm not a Luciferian. I'm not a Satanist. I don't go to, self-worship practice or whatever. It's just, the point I'm trying to make here is that everybody has their own thing, and I'm just trying to step back from everybody's thing because they all try to include me in their thing. And before I'm ever going to subscribe to anybody's thing, if ever, then leave me alone for a minute. Because I haven't had a minute my whole life to think for myself. And now that I finally kind of do, they're going to box me up with a whole bunch of people who are going to force me to do and think as they say. Just give me a minute. Give me a minute. I want to think for me. I didn't mean to think for you guys. I didn't mean to try to think for you guys. I promise. I was raised to think for others and not for myself. It was done to me. It was taught to me. I didn't mean to do that. Understand, I did not mean to do that. And when I did it, I was completely oblivious to it. Completely. Alright? I call me a baby with a handgun. Like I was taking that hammer and swinging it. I thought I was swinging it at nails, and I was hitting people. And I didn't mean to. And I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry. And I know it's probably going to take me a really long time for people to forgive me, but as it stands, I hope you realize that I value your forgiveness as human beings a hell of a lot more than I'm even worried about something happening to me legally. I'm doing it live. It's not. I don't have to fight for my freedom or in a way where I'm just trying to convince people. Maybe it's that hard for you to believe that I value your forgiveness that much. I do. And the reason is it says more about who I am. It's not just about what it says about you as a person. It's what it says about me as a person. Am I willing to face those that I've abused or that I've hurt and try to genuinely seek out forgiveness and understanding? And for some people, forgiveness requires understanding. They will not forgive me unless I understand what I've done to them or how I've hurt them. Okay. I want to be sorry. If you genuinely believe I'm not sincere, help me understand. I will say to you what a very beautiful, misunderstood and misunderstanding woman said to me once. Help me understand. Help me understand. That's right. You're not sorry for anyone else but yourself. That's right, Carrie, because that is a healthy mindset. You should not be sorry for anyone else but yourself. Sometimes not even sorry for yourself. You know what I mean? And if you're sorry for yourself, maybe in a way of compassion as opposed to anything else. So what do you guys got for me? If I hurt you individually, let me know. And we'll have the conversation. And you could try to gaslight me, but I can finally see through it. And, you know, the fan base and the haters will be able to see through all of it because they'll look at me and they'll see what's true. I'm sincere now. The only reason I wasn't sincere was because I had a lot of people telling me how to live. And I believed them over myself. And so I appeared insincere. I was living a different way. I wasn't being true to myself in here, and so it showed here. I'm still not fully honest with myself. That's clear to all of us. I'm working my way there. Okay, Carrie, then I lied. What I lie about? Carrie, a long time ago, you were willing to like me. All right, I've hurt you a whole lot. Let's talk about it. If you don't want to do it live, we can do it in private. This goes to every one of you. If you need to have a private conversation with me, if you genuinely want that retribution, you got to realize I am not your average vlogger or whatever. I'm not the guy. I was never the guy that just doesn't answer. For a period of time, I didn't answer. Why? Because I looked at a whole lot of people who did it professionally, and I was trying to figure out what the best way to go about it was. I was right in the beginning. Answer people, be transparent, and ignore the haters. Didn't do any of those. That's, at one point or another. So if you want to send me a personal message, if you feel I personally hurt you, I'm willing to make an effort to talk it through, and I will know whether or not you're being sincere. And if you are being sincere, and I think you're not, and I don't, stop talking to you at that time. Don't write me off completely. Realize it's possible I may not be all the way there yet. I need time to there's a gap between us that hasn't been bridged yet, and I don't get it. I just don't see it. We're here talking about me. We're not here talking about Kate. Kate's life is Kate's life, and if she wants to talk about it, she's welcome to. And you don't have the ability to evaluate Kate's stress level based on what you see on her face. You don't have the ability.
That's true.
You don't know her. That is not enough to evaluate someone's psychological state. All right? Not do it.
Some of the most depressed people are the people who always have a smile on their face, like at Robin Williams.
Yeah.
You can't just by looking at someone's face.
All right. Carrie obviously doesn't care. It's possibly because she was hurt so much. Because it was a long time ago when she wanted to like me. She might be too hurt that she's not there yet. If you didn't want me, I wouldn't be on screen. All right? If you really didn't want me that much, there'd be a bullet in my head, there'd be cuffs on my wrists, I'd be in an institution. You clearly want me. I don't believe your words. And I'm not challenging you to do something you shouldn't, because if you do, you go to jail or whatever. I'm saying that it's quite obvious you want me here. That's not narcissism. I'm on screen. Something's happening well. So what's next? Okay, Katie, what I'm learning is the people that care, they just want me to move on. They just want me to move on and let it go. It's what I want too. It feels wrong to leave everyone behind.
I think that there's a balance between just leaving everything behind and then having to go through for every single person, the people who genuinely want to understand or who you need to reconcile with. I think that will happen naturally on its own.
Yeah,
As
I can't force it.
As they come into the comments.
You just said it for me.
Yeah.
Ironically, what I'm doing right now is exactly what my family is doing and has always done to me. I'm doing exactly what they do, forcing it. Trying to force my agenda. Trying to force forgiveness. Trying to force conversation. And it's only going to make things worse. And all of this is worth it. It's worth it. There's going to be repercussions for this video. That's okay. I learned a hell of a lot. You know? And if there's one thing I learned is I keep coming back to the same thing. I'm trying to do the same thing that's been done to me to the people who did it to me, thinking it's going to create a better result. All I'm doing is proving that I'm like them. Crap. Why am I laughing, guys? Because I got nothing else to laugh like at this point in my life. I mean, I'm just so grateful that it's being like thrown in my face as it's happening. Think of it this way. How many people do you know go through their whole life not realizing their mistakes until it's too late? I'm 25 and I'm having my mistakes, my major big mistakes being thrown in my face as they happen. That is a godsend. Good. Good. Then I won't continue it, or at least I'll try to work on that behavior. So, this is good. This is good stuff. I appreciate you guys. And I know Kate appreciates you too.
I do.
So, I'll talk to you guys very soon. Carrie, I won't circle through it the rest of my life. Because the way that we move on sometimes has to be in bits and pieces. Especially when you've been through as much as I've been through. Like, sometimes you have to get through the problems in bits and pieces. Especially when you have, absolute psychos who have been spinning you in circles and manipulating you and gaslighting you and making you paranoid and scared for years. I'm finally learning my lesson. Not to listen to the crazy people who just want to spin me in more circles. Any of them. We're moving on. Have a good day, my friends. You're not my friends. You're not. Your fans are haters. We appreciate your company, and I hope you realize that I'm learning to be a better person. I simply misunderstand a whole lot of people right now because they sure as hell misunderstand me. So, talk soon.